Forbes Middle East is honored to host this virtual event in partnership with Visa to celebrate the success of the global She's Next Empowered by Visa initiative that has now made its way to the Middle East. She's Next is a global advocacy program that brings practical insights and tools to small businesses, including networking, mentoring, and funding opportunities. This year, 20 female founders and SMB owners from the UAE, Saudi, Egypt, and Morocco were chosen out of 395 applicants to receive $10,000 in grants each. In addition, 1 year of mentorship from I Fund Women. Today, we will be hearing business pitches from some of these exceptional winners from each of these markets. In addition, we have an incredible group of powerful leaders and accomplished women entrepreneurs from all over the MENA region with us today. We will hear from them stories of resilience, journeys to successful careers, and some guidance on how to navigate your way in today's world while equipping yourself for a better tomorrow. I would now like to welcome Khaloud Al-Omian, the editor-in-chief at Forbes Middle East and CEO of Arab Publisher House, to give her opening remarks and address our esteemed speakers and audience.
Hello, I would like to welcome you today to this broadcast of She's Next initiative by Visa for the first time in the Middle East. Empowering women is part of our mission at Forbes Middle East, and we are so excited to be a partner in this great initiative. Our goal in this initiative is to discover the best female talent and provide them with follow-on opportunities and training. In recent years, we have witnessed a huge transition where more and more women entrepreneurs are establishing themselves as leaders in numerous fields. There are also more female-led businesses and startups emerging daily to contribute to regional economic welfare. According to a survey conducted by Visa, only 25% of the entrepreneurs in the Middle East are women. Studies also show 45% of women are half as likely to receive enough funding for these businesses compared to men. Furthermore, female-founded startups and only draw 1% of Middle East VC funding. These numbers can change drastically if we address the common problems that female entrepreneurs face. The conversation today will address the specific challenges women face before and after they debut in the business world. They will discuss how women can overcome these challenges on their way to achieving success. Once again, we are incredibly honored to be part of this event. We hope this project facilitates a more positive outlook for women and SMBs and help empower women leaders on the rise. We hope you enjoyed the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Khaloud, for that great summary of all of the challenges that we hope to address in our discussions today. I would now like to welcome Ambereen Moussa, the CEO and founder of soukalmal.com, to deliver her keynote speech and walk us through her journey from setting up her business and the lessons she's learned along the way to becoming successful.
Thank you, Ramya, for having me as a keynote speech. The title of this keynote is about lessons for success. I will start with this question. What is success? How do you define it? Is it the same definition for all of us? Well, there is a perception of success and there's a reality of success. We all have our own meaning, but the question I have for you is whether you're true to yourself when you're out there looking for your meaning of success. Or is it about achieving what others around you believe success is? It took me a while to understand what success means to me. You know, I started as a typical high achiever at school, got a scholarship to university, and eventually did my MBA at INSEAD. Great performer, great career path. I jumped off planes, I jumped off cliffs, and traveled on my own in most of Asia. And I kept growing and kept looking at what was next. What was the next thing that was crazy enough that I could do? But then it hit me. My idea of success was to do anything that would make my dad proud. I was living my life based on what his meaning of success was. That was enough. It was time to build my own meaning of success and my own truth. Throughout the years of building Soukalmal, a lot of learnings came through. And I'm still learning, to be honest. Every single day, I learn things that I didn't know before. And I do want up to bring the 6 lessons of my own version of success. Your mindset, first of all, decides how others perceive you. Many women start off by saying, I'm a woman, and therefore we act, we think, and make decisions based on how we feel and how we think others perceive us. Interestingly enough, others perceive us the way we perceive ourselves. So if a woman starts by saying, I am a woman, and therefore, others will say, you are a woman, and therefore, you attract the energy that you give. Have the right mindset about what you can achieve and believe in your capabilities, not your gender. The second part of what I want to bring out today is do what you love doing. One of my mentors in the UK when I was 24 years old said to me, I can teach any subject to anyone. We can teach an industry, we can teach how things are done, we can groom, but there's one thing in the workplace I cannot teach, is passion. When you're passionate about what you do, you are able to transfer this passion to others, to your employees, to your investors, to your colleagues, and to your clients. One thing I've learned throughout my 10 years at Souq al-Mal is people love buying from those who are passionate about what they are selling, not just because they're selling a product. Asking for help can be terrifying. Most of us never ask for help in the fear of getting a no. The worst thing that can happen is a simple no. The best thing that can happen is an open door. Asking for help has nothing to do with being vulnerable. Look around you. How many of us make it through life alone? We need help from our entourage, from our colleagues, partners, kids, parents, family. We're all human. And that's something I want you to remember. We are not superhumans. We are humans. And none of us excel in everything we do. So we need to ask for help. Asking for help shows humility, approachability, and more importantly, the willingness to learn. Do not take no for an answer. You will be slammed with no's day in and day out. Hundreds of them, and even from people you thought were on your side. Be prepared for it and do not give up. For me, giving up is basically saying you do not believe in yourself and in your passion. You will fall, you will get up, and you will keep going. My first job after my startup in Australia was with GE. I had no residency and therefore couldn't find a job in Melbourne, but I really wanted to stay. I remember I turned up at the GE offices and asked for HR. The answer was, sorry, we do not have any openings. They wouldn't actually pass me on to HR. The next day, I went back and asked again. The same answer came back. On the third day, I went back and sat at reception all day, and I said I would refuse to leave until I had the chance to speak with HR and convince them to take me on, because I believed in myself. I knew what I could offer. Not only I got a part-time job the next day, I actually ended up with a full-time job by the end of my first week at work. Be honest. It can never be taken away from you. It is a trait that belongs to you and that you will carry throughout your life and your career. Integrity. I have heard so many times the phrase, and you will agree with me, can you really make it without being dishonest? Well, to me, that's up to you. And before any contracts come into play, before any negotiations happen, I can guarantee you this: trust is the first established rapport in any of your relationship, be it supplier, investor, client, or employee. We live in a very small region. Your reputation precedes you. People may not like who you are or the way you do things, but no one can touch upon your honesty and your integrity. The next bit is for moms out there. This is for you. I am a very proud mom of 2 kids, an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. Guilt. This was the most pronounced word in my head when I first started Souq al-Mal. Guilt. I'm not doing enough. I'm not there enough. I'm not making enough meals. I'm not going to school enough. I'm not spending time enough. It is never enough. But guess what? It never will be, no matter what you do and how much time you spend with your kids. We have been told growing up our first priority is our kids and everything else comes second. But in all of that, we forgot ourselves. We come first. Without us being the best we can be, We cannot educate our kids how to be the very best version of themselves. So to moms out there, let it go. Do what you believe will give you that fire inside, what you're passionate about, and you will end up being a role model for those kids. What they will remember is someone that they're proud of, who showed them that hard work was the name of the game, and that positive energy is totally contagious. I will leave you with these few words. Love yourself, be passionate about what you do, ask for help, and embrace failure.
Thank you, Amberine, for sharing some of the highlights from your inspiring story of combating various challenges to emerge as a successful leader and a role model. I'd now like to extend a huge congratulations to our grant winners from the UAE for the She's Next program. I'd like to invite the winners to present their elevator pitches and talk a little bit about how they plan to utilize the grant to grow their businesses.
Hi everyone, my name is Hafsa Kadir and I'm the CEO and founder of I'm Inclusive. I would like to thank Visa, Forbes Middle East and FAB for this wonderful opportunity for us to present about I'm Inclusive today. I'm going to be deep diving a little bit into disability inclusion and the inclusion of people of determination today. So I'm Inclusive is a platform that solves a problem for 1 billion people across the world. Currently, 1 billion people are locked out of opportunities due to isolation, a lack of networking, a lack of jobs, and also a lack of understanding from the employers on how to train, recruit, and retain people of determination. So from our side, the solution has been quite straightforward to ensure that we hire more and more people of determination with employers. For me, this journey of inclusion begins right at my home. My brother is a person of determination. And initially, when I started building I'm Inclusive, I was really finding a solution for myself. Since our incubation completed with the Authority of Social Contribution MAN Abu Dhabi, we aligned ourselves as much as possible to the Abu Dhabi and the UAE goals and vision of inclusion of people of determination. And we found that after completing our incubation in January 2020, our mission actually snowballed. We've received tremendous support throughout our journey. So what do we do for employers today? Today, we actually help employers at wherever they are with their inclusion journey. We support them end-to-end in inclusive recruitment of people of determination. We start with the infrastructure accessibility. We support with training. We support with learning and development. We go into building a really good talent pool depending on the industry, function, skills the clients require. And we're also hosting career fairs now dedicated to the client. We'll also be having a UAE-wide career fair in November just coming up. So employers no longer have to hesitate when they think about where do I start when it comes to inclusion of people of determination. And a lot of this has also been simplified by our app and web app. So the photo that you see on the screen, that's of my brother, Ahmed Kadir. And Ahmed requires a wheelchair to work. He currently does work at I'm Inclusive. And basically, we offer a digital hub of inclusion. So employers can build their profiles on our platform and they can list jobs as per the accessibility they offer. We also give enterprise dashboards to employers, and we provide dual-sided support for both employers and candidates. We've built a social chain of inclusive hiring in the UAE, one that we're very proud of. And this is what a profile of a person of determination looks like. So we focus on the abilities and we manage expectations from the start. The picture you see here is of Saira Said, who's also a person of determination and the director of opportunities at I'm Inclusive. So I hope that you will join us. If you're a business who's viewing this today, if you're a startup, think about building an inclusive team. Give a chance to someone, open the door, open your own heart, and lead your business with heart, because that's what makes it very, very special. Make sure that we're including everyone, all consumers, all employees into our businesses, and open the doors for people of determination with us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lara Hussein, and I am the CEO and co-founder of the Waste Hub. Today, I would like to share with you our story. So I'm going to start by showing you two pictures taken in the same community in Dubai, in the same spot at 2 different points of time. So the first picture on the left was taken last December in 2021 during the winter season in the UAE. And the second picture was taken a few months ago in July 2022, which is, during the peak of summer. And as you can see, they look very different. In the July picture, you see greenery. And this is actually what we do. Through the food scraps that we collected from the community, we are supporting nature to flourish. So why are we talking about food scraps and food waste here? To give you a bit of numbers, in the UAE alone, we import approximately 90% of our food. And unfortunately, 40% of it goes to landfill. This is costing us per year in the UAE $4 billion. And in terms of waste generation per capita per day, we are among the highest in the world. So this is why my co-founder and I decided to set up the Waste Lab. We want to rescue food scraps and build soil. We are a homegrown, woman-owned, and impact-driven startup that is working closely with businesses and households to turn this food waste problem into an actual solution for the benefit of our local soil, local economy, and society. All this through natural composting and other nature-based repurposing solutions. So how we work, we offer different subscription fees and packages to households and businesses for them at the beginning of the journey to segregate their food scraps and leftovers from their kitchen. We give them the kit, the trainings, and all the awareness for them to do the segregation. And then we offer them a door-to-door collection service. Whatever we collect from them, we take it to our warehouse, which is our also control station, where we do further segregation, we record data, and we also channel the food scraps and leftovers either to our farmland, where we do our natural composting, or through partners who are working with us to repurpose different food waste streams into either, for example, animal feed, or let's say with coffee grounds, we are growing mushrooms. And throughout the journey, we are tracking data because data is very important. Everyone who is participating with us would like to know their impact, and this is what we are offering them in return. On top of this, we are partnering up with other startups and companies to give rewards. So finally, I would like to show you quickly here, like this beautiful journey from food scraps to compost. You can see the bin that we collected from one of our households, which contains the food scraps. And after 8 weeks, with us working with nature, we come up with this beautiful byproduct, which is compost. And compost is very important for us to heal the soil here. It first of all changes the soil structure, and it makes it farmable. We can start talking about local food security. We eliminate the use of chemical fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides. And we create with this local resources. We can grow food and we can create new jobs. So this is briefly what we are about. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing your wonderful business ideas, ladies. Moving on now, Dr. Saida, the Senior Vice President and Group Country Manager for the GCC at Visa, will now discuss the thought process and planning that go into formulating an effective strategy for starting, maintaining, and growing a business.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here today. My name is Dr. Saida Jaffer, and I head the GCC for Visa. I'm very excited to be here today with a great panel of highly accomplished women to talk about something that is very near and dear to all our hearts and the hearts of many of those around us, about entrepreneurship, specifically for women. I'm very proud to talk about a specific initiative that Visa has been proudly championing for several years. It's called She's Next. She's Next is an opportunity for aspiring women entrepreneurs to really and truly get funding on one hand, but equally on the other hand, get access to world-class mentoring, coaching, as well as networks that will help them drive the business forward. Our topic for today is a very important one. As part of a lot of work and surveys and research that we have done, we have consistently heard one thing that has come up in the feedback that we have received. there is one thing that is consistently top of mind for a lot of these young aspiring women entrepreneurs, and that is how to better set goals for profitability for their businesses and how to develop stronger strategies. It's easier to get started in some shape and form, but then to navigate through what comes next, to scale, to grow, and to do it in a profitable way, that can prove to be very challenging. So how does one take on that task? And how does one then go from being a small startup to something that is truly scaled? To talk about this, we have 3 women pioneers who have not only talked about it, but live it and breathe it on a day-to-day basis. We have with us Mana Ataya, who is the founder and the CEO for Mom's World. And anyone who has kids or has friends or family with kids knows exactly what a big lifesaver Mom's World is. So Mana, great to have you with us today.
Pleasure, thank you.
Next, we have Karen Wazan, who is the owner of Karen Wazan, which is a phenomenal line of eyewear. I mean, some of your pieces are incredibly beautiful, Karen, and I see them all. It's great to have you.
Thank you. It's an honor being here. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Madiha Sattar. Madiha, you are a VP at Kareem Pay, and Kareem needs no introduction. To most of us who live here, it is a necessary everyday staple. It's great to have you with us, Madiha.
Thank you, Saida. Excited to be here.
Wonderful. With that, I would love to kick us off. And maybe the first question is for you, Mana. You've been down this entrepreneurship journey for a while. You've grown Mom's World to what it is today. Can you share some of your insights, some of the highs and some of the lows of that journey? And what are some of the lessons that you've learned from it that other young aspiring entrepreneurs can take to heart?
Thank you, Saida, and it's a pleasure to be here. The highs and the lows, there are too many to mention in an hour of conversation. I think the first, if you like, challenge, we launched Mom's World in 2011, back when e-commerce was less than 2% penetration of retail. And that 2% was predominantly travel and electronics. So for all intents and purposes, in 2011, consumers were not online shopping for particularly mother, baby, and child products. So we launched the website back at a time when the ecosystem was very nascent. And as you know, e-commerce requires a lot of enablers in a sophisticated ecosystem in order to not only grow, but to survive. So you need technology talent because you're a technology business. You need payment gateways so customers can pay online. You need suppliers who understand the dynamics of online. You need couriers who understand the importance of fast delivery. All of that did not exist back in 2011. So we needed to build an ecosystem from scratch. And needless to say, with everything that is new, that is pioneering, you have a lot of naysayers. You have a lot of people who think or who thought at the time that e-commerce was a fad. It was coming and going. And most importantly, the capital that was required in order for us to build that ecosystem did not exist, because venture capitalists did not want to invest in a very high risk, low potential return ecosystem. So that was the biggest, not low, but the biggest challenge that kept me up, I would say, for 6 years till we figured it out. So that was the first one. On the other side, I'm a mom of 3 children. When I launched Mom's World, I was also a co-founder in another business, and I had 3 children under the age of 10, 2 of which are twins. So as every mother would tell you, your life and your job as a mother is a full-time job, and you're overextended as it is. So here I found myself with a business that was pioneering in an ecosystem that was unforgiving, capital that did not exist, and 3 children at home that needed my full attention. So that was the greatest low. Now on a high, so many highs. We built not only a pioneering business, we were the first e-commerce vertical for mother, baby, and child. We are today the gateway into the Middle Eastern household. We reach over 3 million mothers. We work with 6,500 local, regional, and global brands. We've raised the largest capital rounds of any woman-led business. So we raised 6 rounds of capital. We were the first woman-led business that exited in the region, a digital business. And I'm very proud to say that the majority of our C-level and our senior managers are actually women. So not only are we empowering mothers to make the most informed decisions for their families, we're empowering women to go back into the workforce and kind of give back. So a lot of highs. It was a journey. It's been an 11-year journey, and it's still, I say it's still the beginning, but a journey I'm very proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear. And I think a lot of what you said resonates, right? It's many years out, it's 11 years out, but I think a lot of challenges that you mentioned around the ecosystem, around funding still exist. So it's good to hear that, even then you were able to work past them and you built such a successful business. And I think the other thing you mentioned, which was around balance, right? How do you balance it? Not only balance it with yourself, with your family, with everyone. That's a critical one. And I often wonder when you do that, when you do something like what you've done, it takes it has an impact on a person individually, because there's so much of you in the business and there's so much of the business in you, right? And I think Karen, you in particular personify this so much, because you are your business is a big part of you. So how has that worked out over the last few years? How has being an influencer, an entrepreneur changed you, and how has your personality evolved with it?
That's a great question. I also love the question on balance, because I think, like Mona said, it's something that's at the core of every mom who's an entrepreneur. And I relate to a lot of what you said, Mona. I'm also a mom of 3 children, and 2 of them are twins. So it's nice to hear of other moms being able to juggle that and creating such successful businesses. So thank you for leading by example. I have to say, I've had some kind of different challenges, which now I look back at and feel very proud that I was able to overcome them. And one of them is the fact that I started off being present on a social platform. I have to say it was not very easy to prove to myself and to my audience and to the industry that, even though I didn't start up as a basis of entrepreneurship, and I didn't necessarily study that either, I have a master's in psychotherapy, that I was able to be an entrepreneur myself. So there weren't a lot of examples that we, witnessed of, if you want, public figures becoming entrepreneurs or creating businesses. I'm thankful for the few women that were able to pave the way, but it wasn't the norm. Today, we see that, happening a lot more, and I'm very proud to be amongst those women. But I really did have to kind of prove myself. I had to find the confidence within myself, because there was a lot of kind of, not scrutiny, but if you want, a lot of putting me in a box of, Karen is an influencer and this is what she does. It's almost like she cannot step over or take that another journey, because this is her journey. And I didn't feel, definitely being a digital influencer, content creator, whatever you want to call it, is at the core of what I do. But this has definitely helped me so much in shaping the business that I have today, because through my ongoing conversations with my audience, through understanding my audience, through, interacting daily with them, I was really able to figure out the best business model that will work for my brand. And, like Mona said today, I also see this as just the beginning of what I wish to do. So I definitely do feel that this is a business that I want to scale. I feel very proud that I'm able, being a public figure, there are some goods and bad things that would come with it. So there are definitely some challenges of having very little room for a mistake, because I don't want to disappoint my audience. I don't want one kind of business to affect the other in case, one of them doesn't go the way, planned, or little hiccups on the way. So it is that there is a fine line between, both businesses. And I try as much as I can to have separate strategies as well for both. And it is something that I relaunched the Karen Waz and Eyewear business in 2019. And it was in the works for a while, but what took me time was to find the confidence within me to feel that I can do this. So I'm really glad that I, challenged myself, that I blocked out all the noise and built what I wanted to build. And I still feel that I am at the beginning of the journey. I learned so much from it. I still learn every single day, but it's a beautiful journey. And most importantly, I love to use my platform to highlight that, being a mom does not mean that you have to be a stay-at-home mom. If that's something you wouldn't want to do, or being able to do it all works. You definitely do need a big support system, which I'm lucky enough to have. But if you do have ambition to start your own business, you can. And this is something that I really use my platform, very heavily to send across this message.
Thank you for that, Karen. And look, it resonates, right? I think what you said was it takes courage, and you're so spot on. It takes a lot of courage to put ourselves out there and to do something that's different. And that's something that, that is unexpected, if you will, that charts a different path. And it's easy to feel perhaps sometimes a bit judged or a bit, boxed in, as you said. So absolutely. I think taking that first step is probably the most courageous thing one can do. And then good things come from it, right? You take it and you go and you grow. Absolutely. Madiha, I would love to bring you into the conversation as well, because you work at Careem. You have a very, very intense role at Careem. You've done many things there, but you now head up their verticals payments. And I would love to understand, if you could share how do you manage and deal with, some of those stresses, and how do you stay motivated and stay on top of your game?
Thank you, Saida. It's a great question. And it's so important because that resilience, I think, is the number one quality in a leader, right? Whether you're an entrepreneur, as the other ladies on the call, or running a business within a company, the ups and downs are significant, and they're very high stakes ups and downs that impact your colleagues, your employees, the business, the company overall. And so for me, what really motivates me is really believing in the purpose of what you're doing. At the end of the day, if you don't believe that what you're doing is important, and if you don't know why it's important, nothing is going to get you through the challenging days, right? And so for us, one thing we consider our superpower at Careem is the purpose that the founders set out very early on, which was to simplify life in the region, right? Life in our region can be needlessly complicated. And while Dubai is not necessarily like that, Careem is present in 13 markets in the region, in dozens of cities. And there's so much to do to simplify lives. And actually, you cannot simplify life without simplifying payments. And so for me to transfer that purpose to Careem Pay is pretty straightforward. If you cannot make it easy and simple for people to pay for their daily needs, and then beyond that, to consume other financial services, to just make their lives more productive, and to be able to spend time on the things they really want to spend time on, that's really our purpose, is to free up capacity and mind share for people to be able to really spend time on the things that matter to them most. And then when it comes to payments, there's the added layer of trust and security and protecting people's money, and making it easy for them to generate an income or to make a payment or to provide for their family, right? So I think it's, at the end of the day, it's that purpose that has to keep you going in the face of pressure. And the other thing that I would say really motivates me is learning. My learning curve at Careem has basically been vertical, not even exponential. It's been a straight line. And this is the third or fourth business at Careem, new business that I've been involved in launching. And so every single time, sort of learning a new business, the economics of a new business, the business model of a new business, hiring a brand new team from scratch, building a product from scratch, building a mini app within the Careem Super App from scratch, the learning is immense. And that really is one thing that I sort of really benefit from, and that sort of makes the pressure worth it.
Thank you. That's it's very good to hear. And you're right. I think there are few things in the world that are moving as fast as I think payments is moving. So to be constantly on top of that and to constantly be able to innovate in a safe and secure manner in a situation which touches the lives of so many people, it's a big responsibility. So it's one not to be born lightly. I get that. It's interesting to hear all three of you. And when I reflect on what I hear is, yes, there is the business part. There is absolutely addressing a need for something that is critical and needed in the market. But equally, it is as much about being a very strong person, being a person who has a certain mindset that is able to drive entrepreneurship. And, Mona, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think, what kind of a mindset do you think is really and truly needed to be able to help entrepreneurs get from an idea to a successful business?
So, there's a reason why only 1 in 100 businesses that start up survive the first year, and then you have another fall off the second and the third year. So the life of an entrepreneur is not an easy one. It's not one of roses and fame and fortune. It really is one of a tremendous amount of compromise, sacrifice, resilience and grit. And you hear the words resilience and grit, but that's very real. And the reality is you're creating something that doesn't exist, right? You're trying to solve important need gaps, and you're trying to do that either for the first time, or you're trying to do that better and faster than everyone else. And when you're trying to fulfill need gaps for the first time, you're figuring things out as you go. And as an entrepreneur, you may have that passion and that vision and that commitment in your mind, but then you have to relay that to everyone around you, from your family to your friends to the team that you bring on board. Why should they work 22-hour days, 365 days a year and earn less than their peers who are working in large organizations? They don't need to do that unless they are fully committed to your vision. So resilience and grit is really important. Having a thick skin and being so passionate about what the end line looks like. What is it you're trying to solve, and why is it important to you as a human being? And how does it tie in with your values? And for me, in my journey as a digital entrepreneur and in e-commerce has been, filled with, comic book challenges. And what got me up every single day is this notion that I could figure it out. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this notion of, and this is my personal belief, if you do things for the right reasons, good things happen in the end. So I'm by nature a very positive person because I believe that I can figure things out. It may take longer. I may take the road less traveled, but I can figure things out. And I've always been incredibly positive, even when we were raising capital, and it took us 1.5 years to raise our second round, with hundreds of investors saying, go away, go away, go away, and us having, literally months of working capital left in the bank. And my children would laugh at me because I was wearing the same black trousers and black shirt for 6 months straight. And I would tell them, no worries, tomorrow is another day. I'll figure it out tomorrow. I'll figure it out tomorrow. So that's the second thing. And the third thing for me is really faith. At the end of the day, you'll get what's coming to you. You give it your 110%, you do what's right, you make the right decisions for the right reasons, and the puzzle will come together.
That's interesting. So sometimes you just have to go with it and believe that you will figure it out one way or another. Even if you don't have the answers, you will get to the answers. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It is interesting you say that. It's a lot. It's a constant 24/7 nonstop. How do you balance it? Right. And I would love to open this up, Karen, over to you. How do you balance it? How do you make sure that while you have that all-consuming 22 hours, right, you have a team that's working with you? How do you balance that with the 3 kids or parents or family or whatever else it is in your life that you want to balance it with? And of course, there's that little person yourself as well in the mix. Bring all this together? How do you create 50 hours in a 24-hour day?
Yeah, I wish there was a simple answer to that. And if someone has it, I would love to hear it, because this is something that I'm constantly looking for, that right balance. But I think what I've learned to do is to understand that there are some days where you're going to feel like you're taking time away from other your priorities and putting it into your work. And there are days where you feel, it's okay if you don't. I think accepting that it's a journey, accepting that not every day will look the same, is key to me. I sometimes go through phases where, for example, I have to travel a lot and I feel like I'm taking time away from my family or from myself. And it makes me feel bad at the moment. But then I remember why I started. And this is, I think, super key. I think Madiha mentioned that as well. Remembering the purpose, remembering why you started, motivates me. It gives me, that energy that I need when I feel like I'm about to fall apart. And accepting that, it's okay if I'm not right there for my family right now. It does not mean that I'm not a good mom. It does not mean that I'm not hands-on, and it does not mean that it's not time that I can get out of them when I'm back from my trip, for example. It is still a struggle, and it's something that I think all moms go through. And someone once told me, the fact that you're even asking yourself these questions says what kind of mom you are, and that kind of made me feel good. The fact that you feel that guilt means you are a very caring mom. I do believe that all moms obviously are caring. Sorry, I'm talking more from the mom perspective, because I have to say personally, this is where I struggle with the balance the most. And then finding time for myself. I used to think that giving myself some time was selfish, but I realized that actually it's necessary. When I give myself some time, I'm better as a wife, I'm better with my colleagues, I'm better with my children. And it is super necessary, and it is not selfish. In fact, it's loving the people around you and wanting to be the best version of yourself for them. So yeah, it's like I said, not every day will look the same. There is nothing that you can't recuperate with time. Time is limited, but not everything. We feel like we're constantly in a race. And that is something that I also worked on, believing that everything at its own time, everything, you're not racing against anyone except yourself. So take the time that you need. And sometimes that will actually get the better journey out of it.
Yeah, no, you're so right on that, right? It can feel so selfish to say, I only have a certain amount of time for my family, for my friends, for my children. I want to spend that time on me. I get that. And I think that's something a lot of moms struggle with on a day-to-day. And it's good to know that, it's not a one person or one group thing. It's good to see that even everyone struggles with that and has the same thoughts and discussions with their friends and their loved ones. It's important. You're an individual, and to be able to then take care of yourself. We've talked a lot about the person. We've talked a lot about the mindset, the challenges from a personal side. I'd like to take a moment and just pivot this a little bit and talk about the technology side. All three of you have set up very technology-led businesses. And maybe Madiha, I'd love to hear from you. You've helped launch the Korean Super App. And it is hard launching a fintech app in the MENA region. It is not easy. Tell us about some of the challenges that you had to face and how you overcame some of those.
Yeah, Saida, fintech is a uniquely difficult business. It's a bit more complicated than many of the other businesses, many of the other digital businesses in the region, right? So for one, it's obviously more regulated. There's a regulatory and compliance aspect to it that's very specific. The other piece is that you don't, as a fintech, want to build all of the infrastructure yourself. There's a whole world of payments infrastructure behind the scenes that if every startup tried to build itself would never launch, right? And then the other piece, of course, is that margins are razor thin in this business, right? They're thin in e-commerce, but they're significantly thinner in payments. And then lastly, Careem was never known as a fintech brand. We have not had that identity yet. We were known as a ride-hailing brand, and we launched food delivery. We have a super app. It was still, it's not a fintech brand yet, right? So those are 3 or 4 of the core challenges. Now, we took obviously a different approach and a different solution for each one. I think on the the infrastructure and the plumbing, we realized very early on that we will need partners more in payments than in any other business that Careem is in. So we have sort of a very specialized partnerships function and a team that I've built within Careem Pay focused on this aspect. And also, while we've had partners in other Careem businesses, this level of dependency on partners for technology, for compliance, for regulatory is not something that we were used to before we knew how to handle. And so now we've built that muscle of how do you select the right partner? How do you strike the right deal? How do you write the right contracts? How do you ensure the tech dependency and the tech SLAs are in order? So this was a whole new function we've built that is much more specialized than anything we built at Careem before from a partnerships perspective. When it comes to the brand, I think we are starting to build a Careem Pay brand, and we've realized that while it may be challenging to do that in the context of a super app, what we also benefit from is the 50 million users on the Careem app and the 2 million captains that do our deliveries and do our rides that are consumers as well, right? So that's actually a gift that for a new fintech would have taken a decade to build that same user base. And while they may not know Careem Pay as a brand, they do trust Careem as a brand. And so we actually have a great starting point. And the question is then, how do we leverage that? How do we do the right cross-sell? How do we do the right brand building, starting with that user base, right? So viewing that brand and that user base as actually a gift rather than a challenge, and then making sure that we make Careem Pay available to the users who need it most within the Careem family, right? So that's one. And then on the margins, I think the payments business forces you to be so conscious of unit economics from day one. You don't have a choice. Your margins are so limited. And in order to grow your scale to the point where you can offer higher margin products, whether it's lending, insurance, wealth, you have to build that scale starting with payments. Honestly, it's forced us to just be very, very frugal and responsible when it comes to all of the different costs that go into the payment business. So that is sort of, those are two or three of the biggest challenges that are very, very specific to fintech.
And fintech is a different animal. You're right. You can't. Partnership is critical. Partnership is key to surviving in this business. It's interesting to hear about it from a fintech angle. If I pivot this a little bit to the e-com angle, Mona, would love to understand from your view, the way you look at your business, the way Madi had talked about some of the drivers and the aspects of the fintech business, as well as the business ecosystem, the fintech business. Would love to hear from you how you have seen your business and the ecosystem around it evolve and how you think Mom's World plays in it.
So 11 years ago, when I sat in the summer and I wrote down the business plan of Mom's World, remember, I was a mom of 3. I was a co-founder of a very fast-growing, profitable business. I felt I had it all. I had the perfect life. Yet as a mother, I was dissatisfied and disgruntled. And as I was writing the business plan, I thought, I wish there was a place where I, as a mother, could go and search the largest compendium of products where I can search, compare, and buy, know that I'm paying an everyday low price, feel that I'm not cheated, get all of the comprehensive information that I need to make an informed decision, and most importantly, tap into a community that can engage with me, can share with me, can add value to my life, and ultimately empower me as a mother to raise my children in the best possible way. And I believe every mother has that fundamental need. So the business plan of Mom's World was a business plan of really a social impact vision of, if you empower a mother with the tools, resources, and information she needs to make informed decisions, you empower the child. What happens when you empower the next generation? The world changes. That's what Mom's World is about. So when people come to me and say, oh, you're an e-commerce site, I tell them we are not an e-commerce site. And what we built as a result of our vision has been far greater. So today we are the gateway into the Middle Eastern household. We reach just under 3 million mothers who are incredibly loyal. We have one of the largest communities of mothers outside our e-commerce platform. These are mothers who are engaging with us day in and day out. We work with, again, just over 300,000 products globally, bestsellers, award winners, niche finds that nobody has. Mothers today say, when you've shopped on Mom's World, you've shopped everywhere. So because of our breadth and depth and our specialization, we're able to tap into things and products that that other players won't be able to, because that's our core. And in so doing, what we've been able to do is to bring in over 6,500 suppliers. Many of them, by the way, are local and regional suppliers. So these are brands who have actually built their business and built their footprint on Mom's World. So their lifeblood is actually Mom's World. So on one side, we're empowering moms to make the most informed decisions. On another side, we're creating a community of moms supporting mothers. And on the other side, we're actually engaging small, medium, and larger brands to tap into the Middle Eastern household and give power to all sizes of brands to really reach that consumer and give power to the consumer to choose what she wants. Building a local business that is a global or has a global footprint, because that's who we are today, has been something that we're all about. That's Mom's World. We're deeply, deeply entrenched in the community. Part of our footprint as a business is CSR efforts. You cannot work with us here if you don't want to give back to the community. And that's part of the DNA that we try to bring in and inculcate in the organization. And so ultimately, again, going back to what Madiha said, you build a brand that has social impact at its core, that is turning the needle on changing lives, is fundamental to what we do. And that's why I get up in the morning, not to sell something at a discount or not at a discount. It's irrelevant. What we're doing here is giving power to the mom to be the best version of herself. And that's our day-to-day job.
That's a very, very inspiring purpose to have. Thank you for sharing that with us. Absolutely. And I loved the way you articulated it, and you said that, Mom's World is a gateway. It's a gateway to those 3 million moms, to the world, to come in and to be able to see and have a conversation with those moms. And I think the conversation is so true. And Karen, you mentioned this as well when we were talking a bit earlier, that through your platform, you have conversations with everybody out there, and that's how you have also helped shape some of the business and how you have evolved the model over time. And if we just pick on this for a minute, right? I think some of these tenets, some of these elements of how do we build successful businesses, and would love to hear what are in your mind, perhaps some of the rules, some of the tips, some of the tricks, some of the ways in which entrepreneurs can really and truly think through to drive towards success.
I wouldn't necessarily say rules, because I really do believe that every entrepreneur has their own journey, their own challenges. But if I had to reflect, I would say working ethically, being focused and dedicated and consistent, loving what you do. I think this is the key to success. Waking up, loving what you do. You need that purpose, that love and passion for what you do every day, to be able to give it your all, and believing that you can have an impact on your community and you can make a difference. One of the latest ventures, actually, that it's actually something that my husband and I started, is we opened a family investment office, which is also to empower and be a part of other startups, other journeys, other entrepreneurs' stories. And it's been a very, very fulfilling journey in itself, and leveraging off the know-how that, all the years on my platform that I was able to garner. I think using that and in kind of helping or making a small difference in the journey of other entrepreneurs has also been something super fulfilling. So I think really believing in your purpose and not drifting off of it for a certain trend, just always remembering why you started, remembering your purpose, and working with ethics. I think this is really something that every entrepreneur should rely on for a successful model.
I heard passion, I heard purpose, and I think I've heard all three of you say that loud and clear. And it's absolutely, it sounds like it's an absolute critical, non-negotiable cornerstone of building something you truly believe in. because it is hard and it does take time. One of the points that was raised earlier today, I'd love to go back to that, Madiha, would be good to hear your views on this, right? You have the passion, you have the drive, you have that vision, but how do you then get others to go with you on this journey? How do you then create the right team, be the right leader, and be the one who can help champion that cause, and then just create a team that will go the distance with you?
Yeah, Saida, it's such a good question. And the reason it's such a good question is because you have to do that even on days when you yourself are not feeling inspired and motivated and energized, and on days when you might actually be worried or scared. And it's fine to convey some of that to the team, but very, very carefully, right? So I think the first place to start is to hire the right people. That's where it all starts, right? So if you're hiring people that come with that alignment with your purpose, that understand why you're doing what you're doing, that's step one. The other thing that I have now looked for more and more in my teams, I mean, one is just being in fintech, I now have to hire very specialized team members as opposed to in some of the other businesses of Careem in terms of their skill set. But the other thing I now really look for is resilience. When you're running a startup, and Careem Pay is a startup within Careem, plans change, strategies change, budgets change. It's not slow moving, priorities change. And so and not everyone is comfortable in those environments. Not everyone reacts well to those environments. So one thing I really have started interviewing for, selecting for, testing for, is people who can deal with change and actually thrive and actually shine in environments where there is change, right? So if you have that team that sort of understands why you're doing what you're doing, and is a resilient team that will flow with changes and thrive on changes, then you have the building blocks in place. And then sort of there's some simple tips and tricks where I sort of just before going into a session with my team or a meeting with my team, even if I'm just had another irritable interaction with someone else, or I'm truly concerned about a big miss on a target, or we've had a setback with a partnership agreement, etc. You just have to sort of pause and take a step back, put on a smile, and put those worries to the back of your mind, and just sort of put on that positive attitude. It sounds a bit simple, but it actually is important. At least I have to remind myself often to do that. And then the nuance there is to somehow convey what it is that you're concerned about without alarming the team, right? So if you're concerned about a target miss, for example, there's a fine line where the team should know this is a problem. They should feel that it's a problem. It should be something they want to work towards. But at the same time, you want them to feel that things are under control. They've got a leader. They've got someone who will manage the situation. So that is a balance that I'm still learning to strike. And then the third thing that helps, I think, is demonstrating to the team that you have their back. So when they are sort of being viewed or evaluated by others, or when we're sort of talking about our division's performance, for example, or there's been a mistake where someone has frankly tried their best, but something happened that was not intended or unexpected. I think having their backs in those situations then earns you that capital with your team, such that when there is a difficult moment and when there is a difficult interaction, they are giving you a pass on that, right? Because they understand that you have their interests at heart. And the reason that you're pushing them or the reason that you're driving them is for the good of the business. So these are very delicate balancing acts. There's a lot of psychology involved. There's a lot of communication skills involved that you sort of just have to build from experience, unless you're naturally gifted with them.
That's fair. I think agility, optimism, these are all absolute traits that one as a leader demonstrates in spades. I think there's another one that comes with being a leader, which is also making difficult decisions and making difficult choices, because at the end of the day, the world is not perfect and resources are limited. And Mona, I know this is something that you have had to deal with quite a bit in your career and in your journey as an entrepreneur. I think it would be good if you can to share some of those reflections and help us and help those of us who are out there and thinking about entrepreneurship think through how to think through some of those conversations and decisions?
So I've definitely made a lot of not only difficult choices and decisions, but unpopular ones. I have certainly stood against the grain more than I have stood within the grain throughout the entire journey as an entrepreneur. One that comes to mind is, I mentioned earlier, our B round of funding took a lot longer than we would have wanted. We were at a critical tipping point where we had to raise the capital, and we found an investor at one point that was willing to put in all the capital. And I remember we traveled that summer. It was the first time I traveled in over 2 years, and I was, kind of sighing a relief that finally, after this pain, we were able to find an investor. And I remember having a call while I was on vacation. It was just a customary call pre-closing. And during that conversation, it was very clear to me that we were not aligned on values. And I never make decisions on short-term gains, even if they're difficult. So I knew that we could lock in this round and I could relax and sigh relief, but I also knew that in the long term, we will suffer the consequences. And so I walked away from that investment round at a very high risk to the organization. It could have cost the organization serious consequences, but it didn't. And I go back to what I said earlier, do things for the right reason and the right things will happen. So that was a difficult decision. A second difficult decision, as a CEO, chairman of the board, founder of the business, I have a fiduciary duty to the shareholders, to the employees, to the customers, to my children, to my family, to myself. So I have responsibility to many, many people, and it's very important that I remember that. And so I have walked away also from a potential deal that could have served me tremendously, but not served others. So this is another walk away that was due to my fiduciary duty. And then last but not least, look, again, I make a lot of decisions around my family. So, I don't go out with the team at night because I have to go home to my kids. I don't travel to big events with partners because I have my kids. I mean, if they come with me and they're out of school and I have dragged them with me a few times, then so be it. But I have walked away from opportunities for me because my family comes first and foremost. So it's that balancing act. But look, this is what we sign up for as entrepreneurs. We have to weigh these things. And again, entrepreneurship is not a popularity contest. It's the reverse. It's a contest where, are you strong enough to stand against the grain?
That is very good advice. It is not a popularity contest. It is if you are strong enough to stand against the grain. Indeed. And finding the right balance is so different and so unique to each and every one of us. Karen, would love to hear your views on this as well. I think advice to those who are young, ambitious, and aspiring.
I would say challenge yourself, believe in yourselves. Don't let the fear of judgment of others get in the way of what you want to go for. This is a big one for me because I know that I could have not done half of the stuff that I've done had I listened to the fear I had of judgment. So that I would say is an important one to look over, and surrounding yourself with a support system, whether it's in your professional life or in your personal life. I spend a lot of time, whether it's with my team at work or whether it's with my family on a personal level, that support me, that bring me up, that are there for me when I'm not feeling well. And I think this is a very important, part of success as well, because it's, things get hard sometimes, you question yourself, you're lost, you're confused, and having the right people around you, comforting you, making you, being honest with you as well, I think is a very important part of the journey. So this is what I would say. And another one I think I would say is don't be afraid to knock on doors. knocking on doors is something that maybe sometimes people have a fear of, but so much can come out of it. We can't always sit and wait for the opportunity. We also have to go looking for it and not be afraid to knock for it. So yeah, this is what I would say.
Great. A lot of wise words on perhaps some of the things we can do. It would also be interesting to hear about some of the things that perhaps we shouldn't do and some of the things that we could have done better. So Madiha, it would be good to hear from your experience, in your role as a leader. If you were given a chance to do some of the things again, what would you do things differently?
Say that I probably would have started delegating a lot more, a lot earlier in my career. I think some of us, especially when we're starting a new business, it's our baby. We tend to want to be in control, but you cannot scale your company or yourself as a leader unless you delegate. This is a lesson I think we all learn, but I would have liked to start doing it sooner. And really, if you hire the right people, there's a saying that says delegate till it hurts. And so really it's empowering for their careers. It's a great learning opportunity for your colleagues and your team. And it's the only way that you can have the mental bandwidth and mind space to be able to continuously make decisions, because that's really what your job comes down to, is a series of decision making and a series of tough calls. And those ultimately land on your plate. And the flip side of doing this is that your team really only comes to you when either they're in trouble and something's going wrong, or they need a really difficult decision made. That's a good thing, because then what that means is they don't need you for execution, which is fantastic. But when they do come to you, you need to have that resilience and that presence of mind and that decision-making ability and that judgment to respond, and to respond quickly. So I would have delegated a lot earlier, started doing that a lot earlier in my career. It really does pay dividends, and it's incredible leverage. The other a piece that I don't think that I've still yet figured out is, and it's been mentioned before, drawing the right lines between life and work. I don't think I've made, those lines could be clearer. And I think that I'm still working on that. Delegation obviously helps with that as well. But that I don't want to call it balance because it's an overused term, but I think the work-life boundary, I think I could set a clearer one.
Wonderful. Lots of good advice, lots of to-dos and not to-dos. Before we wrap it up, just want to turn it over to you, Mona, Karen, and Madiha. Are there any last words, anything that's top of mind that you'd like to share with the audience listening in?
I would like to just say that this has been super inspiring for me, actually. I know I was part of the panelists, but listening to both of you speaking has been super inspiring. So thank you for sharing your journeys and the do's and don'ts. There's a lot to take in. So thank you so much. And thank you for being women that are paving the way. I love these, success stories, and it's super inspiring. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I would echo that. It's nice to know that others are going through some of the same stresses and challenges, that you're not alone. It's always nice to hear that. And to hear that, resilience is something that we all struggle with, but that really is the key to this kind of the choices that we've made in terms of our careers, right? So it's inspiring and comforting to have had this conversation. Thank you.
And I'd like to also say, and I say this always, women represent 50% of the population. Women entrepreneurs, like men entrepreneurs, come in all shapes and sizes. You have your social entrepreneur, you have your digital entrepreneur, you have and everything in between. And the reality is you need that diversity in entrepreneurship. What you do, Karen, I could never for the life of me do. I don't even know how to post something. And my kids, laugh at me. They go, you still don't know how to post an Instagram post? My kids are off to college. I don't even know how to track them on Snapchat. So the reality is, look, the world is changing so fast. Consumer unmet needs in this fast changing world are evolving faster than they have ever evolved. The time is ripe to find solutions, and the time is right for women to support women in that journey. And what women do, again, in their diversity, is success breeds success. When women entrepreneurs are able to pave the way and show that it can be done, that there are ways to do it. There isn't a toolkit, because as you said earlier, Karen, every journey is a different one, whether you're a woman or a man, but everyone can take the journey. And again, this notion of, can you have it all? Look, in life, no one can have it all, whether you're a woman or a man. Life is about choices. Life is about, what's your legacy? What are your values? What are you trying to achieve for yourself and for the footprint around you? And then you set the path, to that. And if women are able to encourage, support, mentor, and drive other women, I think we have a lot of positive things that can pave the way in the next few years. And I'm optimistic, particularly for the region and Arab women in particular, Asian women. The time is now.
Thank you. Thanks, Mona, Madiha, Karen. You guys have been an inspiration and you've shared a wealth of knowledge. I hope this will be incredibly helpful and useful for all our young aspiring entrepreneurs, women as well as men. Thank you for being so generous with your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saida, and to all of the fantastic panelists for that session. I would now like to extend a huge congratulations to our grant winners from Morocco as they share with us the ethos of their businesses.
Hello, my name is Ilham Kardoudi. I'm the founder of Digited, that powered talented academy. I would like to thank Visa for the award that has been given to us, and also to Forbes for this great opportunity. Thank you. Talented Academy was created to bring a differentiating education solution using digital channels to bring a solution that makes a difference for our youth in Africa. So we study different solutions that exist around the world, and we ended up creating our own platform based on a cloud, and which is like a marketplace that brings trainings from different kind of disciplines to the youth, and to bring them also different kind of contents. If a teacher is willing to share his knowledge with a wider number of students, he can use our platform in order to have a centralized platform that provides either content or video conferences or a schedule for to do presentations online and use anytime. So we have been displayed as at Vivatech. We also got a prize from Google as MENA founder woman, and also we have built different kind of partnerships with educative solutions. Our solution aims to have a social impact, so we are willing to do many partnerships with NGOs, with governmental and regional programs in order to make it accessible to a wider number of students. And we also aim to increase the employability of youth that are today doing a great job but don't have the pedagogical abilities. So we power them with these skills in order to improve their employability. So thank you for this opportunity, and here is our contact.
Hello, my name is Khawlet Tenfiwi, and I'm the founder of Bots Factory, where we democratize access to digital services. So by 2024, consumers will be interacting with voice assistants on over 8.4 billion devices. That's overtaking the world's population. Actually, these voice assistants are powered by technologies that make speech-based communications between humans and computer easy. These technologies have been used widely across the world by many enterprises. But the problem, however, is that these technologies are only available in English and other structured languages like French or Spanish and other global languages, which leaves people who speak Arabic and its dialects excluded from these technologies that can make their daily lives better. And on the other side, enterprises are finding language barriers to connect and communicate well with these customers. That's why we came out with Bots Factory, which is a conversational AI platform that helps enterprises easily launch AI-powered chatbots and voice assistants, not only in structured languages like English and French, but also in our Arabic dialects, in different communication channels from WhatsApp to Messenger to Alexa and Google Assistants. And these voice assistants and the chatbots help them to facilitate information access to all kind of population, whether they are illiterate or technologically illiterate. The platform is easy to use and it's built for enterprises with enterprises. So it's a very easy to use platform. You can only create your account as an enterprise and start enabling the services you need and setting them up depending on your preferences. There's also the training data part where you can use pre-trained natural language processing models in your industry and the languages you want, and launch your chatbot or voice assistant to your users. This is an example that I included here of one of the voice assistants that we made for the National Railway office here in Morocco. It's available in 4 languages: Arabic, classical Arabic, Moroccan dialect, French, and English. It uses voice and text, and it's very widely used by the Moroccan population. What's very interesting about our platform is the advanced dashboarding analytics that we use. Every conversation with each user is well analyzed, and we get very detailed analytics out of it. So that helps business owners to take data-based decisions. And also the other very interesting functionality or the feature is that with the platform, we help businesses launch targeted marketing campaigns to their users across all communication channels. We have a simple revenue model for enterprises. The first one is an on-premise one for enterprises who love to keep their solutions in-house. So we charge a one-time engineering fee, an annual license fee, and annual maintenance fee. And then we have another plan, which is Enterprise Cloud, and it's based on a monthly fee that is calculated based on the number of conversations. So if you want to know more about what we do, and if you are interested to adopt our technology, our solution to connect and engage your customers in their own mother tongue, don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Let me now welcome Leila Serhan, the Group Country Manager for North Africa, Levant, Pakistan at Visa, to address the important question of whether women need to possess certain traits to achieve success.
Hello and welcome everyone. I'm thrilled to be moderating this panel today. My name is Leila Serhan. I'm the Senior Vice President and Group Country Manager for Visa, covering the North Africa, Levant and Pakistan region. The question we're asking today is, do men and women lead differently? And in one survey by the Innis company, nearly 100% of women and almost 80% of men believe that men and women behave differently as leaders. Specifically, they both agreed that women lead by concentrating on relationships, managing expectation, and seeking input, while men focus more on promoting their abilities and final outcomes. But instead of talking about stereotypes, I think today we're here to listen to the real deal and what makes women successful leaders and what traits are required for women to be successful leaders. And today I have joining me 4 successful and brilliant individuals from our region. In this panel, we will examine the traits women leadership needs for their business to not only capitalize on today's disruption, but also become disruptors themselves. So I'm very happy to be joined by 4 disruptors from their different walks of life. So I have with me today Azza Fahmy, Chairwoman and Creative Director of Azza Fahmy Jewelry, Asma Hajjami, CEO and Managing Director at Société Générale in Morocco, Mirna Arif, General Manager of Microsoft in Egypt, and Mr. Hani Deeb, Head of Business Banking Segment and Products and Credit Relations Management at CIB. Thank you, Hani, for joining this panel today. I think you're the one representative of the other gender on this panel today, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you. So welcome to all, and I would like to begin with Azza Fahmy, if you allow me. So Azza, you are one of the most esteemed jewelry designer in the MEA region. And you started making jewelry very, very young, almost 50 years ago. I'm sure you faced a lot of social conventions, gender stereotypes. What inspired you to defy them at the time to reach where you are today?
Honestly, I never think being a woman and I'm going to a male dominant place, because in that time I was finding what I really love to do the rest of my life. My education was interior design. I was successful, but I always I feel that this is not what I want to do it for the rest of my life. Maybe somewhere in this world, there is something which I like to do more than interior design. And I was a real seeker. You know, I was looking for many things to do. Then I found by chance a book that's led me to be, it was a book about jewelry, medieval jewelry in Europe. And then I decided to be a jeweler, but I don't want to only to design. I wanted to make jewelry myself. I had very limited sources of money, so I decided not going to have a new diploma in jewelry making. I decided to go to Khan Khalili, which was the quartet in Egypt for workshops. So I decided to go and work in one of the workshops to know about the techniques. I never thought I will be among men, but my focus was I want the knowledge of making jewelry. But you know, 50 years ago, you know, it's never, you know, I was running like a train, you know, doing my things, and see, this is normal. It's normal for somebody who was looking for something to love, to work on it. I realized this when I decided to write my book, my autobiography, because I found my whole life in front of me, and I said, wow, what I did, it was unusual in that one. But alhamdulillah, it was okay, and I'm happy because I do it with a lot of passion and a lot of love.
Thank you so much, Azza. I think you touched on one very important trait, which is curiosity. And I think being curious is what helped you actually find your passion and make what you're making today, which are beautiful, beautiful objects for men and women to enjoy. So thank you for sharing this. If I may go to Asma, CEO, Managing Director of Société Générale. You know, I joined the financial industry almost a year ago. And while I think at Visa we're doing a good job in terms of gender diversity, I felt that probably there's a lot to do in the financial services sector. And seeing someone like you, Asma, being managing director of such a prominent organization, as a CEO today and being where you are, how important do you believe it is for you to empower young women to rise to management and leadership roles?
Thank you, Leila, and happy to be with you today. Thank you for your question. And perhaps before it is a philanthropic and societal objective, it's first and foremost, in my opinion, a pragmatic and an economic subject. According to the geographies of presence, women constitute a significant part of the population. At the company level, we can see more and more very high rates of female management, approaching 50% in my company, for instance. Not considering this population as a pool of future managers and talents would quite simply mean depriving oneself of considerable HR potential, and even worse, losing all the efforts that the company had made in recruitment, training, and skills development. More generally, at company level, having an inclusive and merit-based policy with regard to women also means being inclusive with respect to the whole components of the company, and regardless of gender, academic background, ethnicities, social origins, and so on. The result at the end is obviously a culture of fairness, exemplarity, and performance. So for a CEO, it's more important to do that due to the performance results of this practice and objective.
Thank you. Thank you, Asma, for sharing this. I think there's no doubt in anyone's mind of the economic impact of better inclusion from a gender perspective. I think some numbers say that you could actually increase the global GDP by 12 trillion to 25 trillion globally if women are more included in the job market. So, and obviously bringing them to senior leadership roles. And since we're talking about economics, and I think Azza touched on this at the beginning of her career, at the beginning of her passion, actually, there was no money. I want to turn this question to Hani, who works with a lot of SMEs as the head of business banking, but also CIB being a great collaborator with Visa on the She's Next initiative. And I want to ask you, Hani, how is CIB partnering with Visa to empower women entrepreneurs and women-led businesses in the MENA region?
Thank you, Laila, for the invitation first. Thank you, the panel. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this important topic. In CIB, we are very committed toward empowering women businesses. And me personally, I strongly believe in the topic. It's actually, it's very close to my heart. I've been investing in this space for the last 5-6 years in CIB. It's actually in the top of our agenda now in all our discussions and day-to-day operations. Yet we're not there. We have a lot of work to do in the coming years, inshallah. We started a few years ago. We formulated a clear strategy on how to support women at large between different segments, either individual segments and small and medium enterprises. We had a lot of initiatives and activities in the market. And we realized that Visa shares the same vision, actually. And we realized that CIB and Visa visions and strategy are perfectly aligned. But it didn't take much to agree on this collaboration model. It was very successful in my view. She's Next. It was very, very successful in Egypt, actually. It falls in line with CIB strategy to support women-led small and medium enterprises, leveraging on Visa global network and the brand to raise the society's awareness and provide the needed support, either financial and non-financial services to help SMEs, specifically women-led businesses, to better manage their business and grow. I think the beauty of this collaboration is the collaboration model itself. The parties are contributing in this collaboration model to provide financial, non-financial services, banking products and services, as well as the mentorship program. Honestly, it's lovely. We can make better impact and even higher, inshallah, in the future. We are very proud of our collaboration with Visa. Again, I see it's very successful. And we have a lot to do, inshallah, in the future.
For sure. Thank you, Hani. And I think, and I believe one of the things that we found out, and it's not secret, is that access to capital is a real problem, and that money is really hard to get and to find for a lot of those women-led businesses. Actually, more than 2/3 of the businesses that we talked to said that they had to use their own personal savings to actually start their own business because the access to capital was so hard for them. So we always look at partners that can help actually facilitate that access to capital. Changing gear and moving to the tech world, Mirna Arif, General Manager of Microsoft in Egypt. So, I mean, it's no secret, tech is still a very male-dominated sector. You are the first female being the leader of Microsoft in Egypt. So how did you defy the odds, Mirna?
Thank you, Laila, and good afternoon, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be with all of you today and really sharing the stage with such prominent female leaders. And special thanks to Hani, of course, for being our male ally here on the stage. But you're right, and if I look back at my career, I would say that I even started in an even more male-dominated industry, spending 17 years in oil and gas. I moved a lot, so I changed throughout my career. I moved countries, I moved industries, I worked for many companies, and I never really ceased to push myself outside of my comfort zone. It has always been the eagerness to learn. The learning opportunity has always been my biggest motivation. But looking back 3 years ago, when I first joined Microsoft, I think this was the biggest push I made to myself. So basically changing companies, changing industry, even changing countries, as I started in the UAE when I first joined Microsoft. And I was ready. I was ready to learn. I was ready to put the time and the effort, and I actually expected to struggle, but I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised that from day one, I felt really included. I felt empowered. I felt that my voice was heard. And I believe that this really goes back to what you mentioned earlier. It's really the passion to learn. It's the curiosity that made others take genuine interest in my professional progression, to really support me in developing and going further. And they all became allies and mentors and friends. And this goes to our culture at Microsoft, the growth mindset, which really encouraging diversity and inclusion, encouraging the constant learning, encouraging that push towards curiosity. This has always been how I moved from one place to the next. And yes, being the first female leader, but then I look around across the industry, there are so many. We don't do it alone. I think it's with great examples like the leaders I see on the panel and amazing allies like Hani that we can do it. It's a joint effort.
Thank you, Mirna. I think I just noted a second trait probably that you talked about, which is courage. Many times we probably sometimes lack the courage of making that jump to another company, to a new role, because we don't always feel that we are 100% ready. But you had the courage to actually do this. And I think this is a great trait of success in leadership. And of course, collaboration. And like you said, I don't think we can do it on our own, even if some days it can feel very lonely to be a leader. Thank you so much, Mirna, for sharing those thoughts with us. I'll go back to you, Azza. And I mean, I think I'm going to be fascinated by reading your autobiography. Can you tell us what was the journey like in the context of our Arab culture, but also reflecting back on your journey, what piece of advice would you like to give to aspiring creative Arab women?
First of all, it was a lovely journey. Every moment was really something for me. And I enjoy it, even with the difficulties, I enjoy it. Because in every moment, I have a new knowledge, which I always seek. And you know, you will, yeah, if you have the opportunity to read the book, you will know more about these things. The piece of advice that you want me to tell them, people they have to have a dream. You have to have a dream in your life. This is very important. And nobody is going to do it for you. You will do it yourself. You will dream. Perseverance is very important, because people sometimes when they fail, khalas, it's okay. I failed. No, you fail and you have to learn from your mistakes. Get up and walk again and learn from your mistake. Always have a confidence of yourself. Trust in yourself. And trust of the dream you are dreaming of. And you can do it. You can do it.
Thank you so much, Hazza. Yeah, and you make us dream as well. I can say this, and I think maybe referring to what Mirna was saying around this culture of growth mindset, which is a lot around this concept of failing forward. You fail forward. You actually fail. You get up and you move forward, and you continue advancing and learn from your failure. I think we've seen individual and organizations being successful by adopting this kind of mindset. So thank you for sharing. If I go back to you, Asma, and so you talked a lot about the culture of diversity and inclusion inside your organization. How do you foster this culture? And in parallel, you remain fair to both genders. So we hear a lot people saying this, maybe we're pushing the button a little bit too much on that on closing the gender gap. So how do you make sure you stay fair to both genders by and fostering a culture of diversity and inclusion?
Thank you, Leila. A big and very interesting question. As you know, sometimes there is a big lag between the ambition and the reality. So trying to answer this question, I think that promoting a culture of diversity and inclusion cannot, in my opinion, take place without a very strong awareness of this necessity in the company. This means knowing your weakness and strength, understanding the breaks and the obstacles, deciphering the hidden rules, identifying the origins of the problem. Sometimes it's a problem of recruitment, sometimes it's a problem of promotion or support of the specificities of some diversities, and not only gender diversities. At the scale of Société Générale group worldwide, and at the level of each bank, we have defined a very ambitious strategy to promote gender diversity and inclusion. And it's based on my organization, as far as my organization is concerned, on 4 major axes. The one is to manage the diversity metrics and the real diversity metrics, not those we expose on media and so on. You can quantify and time-bound objectives. Even if they are not ambitious, but to define material objective and time-bounded objective. Define a policy of mentoring and role models to inspire people in the organization, and to program and set up a mentoring program for the benefits of the diversities. The preservation of work-life balance is very important also, and we have a lot of commitments on that, because we have on work-life balance equilibrium. This cannot be successful without the implementation of solid HR processes, noting equal opportunities, and the merit principle and collegial decisions are key in this process. We have also the opportunity to benefit from a very enlightening training on cultural biases, which are not specific to our societies, and they are true everywhere. And sometimes they are more stronger in some very developed societies. But I think it's very insightful to do this kind of training on cultural biases.
Thank you, Asma. I think a lot for organizations to learn from Société Générale. And of course, I mean, you talked about metrics. I think today in forums like this one, and probably in forums that you do internally, I think role models are so important as well. I agree with you 100%, especially when you're young, you want to see and you want to believe that this can be done. So role models are so important, and thank you for being as well a role model for many. Moving to you, Hani, and probably a broader question. I think what we've seen in She's Next when we run it together is that there are a lot of women-led businesses actually in Egypt. There's also a lot of women-led businesses in Morocco. As CIB, how are you facilitating and supporting women SMEs so that they are able to build and construct their businesses in Egypt specifically?
Well, thank you. As Myrna perfectly said, courage is very important. Yes, I would add awareness as well, organizational awareness and the societal awareness as well. And let me get back a few years back. It was very common to receive inquiries like, why are putting investment in this segment, allocating resources? Is it economically feasible from organizational perspective, or even in the economy level as well? Basically, I think this is my personal view. In Egypt, for instance, female represents 50%, around 50% of the total population. Can you imagine the positive impact that we can make if we unlock this gross potential in this, what I call unutilized capacity in the economy? It would be tremendous achievement for the overall economy and great impact on the GDP growth, economic performance, and social and the social aspects, and as well the individual wealth and well-being as well. I really believe in this space. We are putting a lot of investment as well. Actually, we couldn't have done all these or reach the level that we are now without building and reorganizing ourselves internally first in terms of culture and awareness as well. As I said, the picture wasn't clear back then, a few years back. As we move on toward this empowerment, I think we're making the picture more clear in the societies in terms of awareness. We adopted the strategy and we changed the culture and the shared values within the organization to make sure that all employees not only believe in, but they are consciously supporting women, and this is guiding their day-to-day operations and decision-making as well in the daily operations. What we say in CIB, we need to make sure that this is weaved into the organization fabric. This is very important for us. In CIB, as a customer-centric organization, we start with understanding the customer need first. This is the cornerstone for any initiative or product or service we provide in CIB. We're keen to listen the real needs and the customer voice first, and we started to get in the ecosystem through market research, surveys, workshops. We organized plenty of workshops for women or woman-led businesses across the governorates, not only in Cairo, in different governorates. In addition to workshops and focus groups to come up with what are the real needs of the segment. The interesting insight that we came up with was self-confidence first, the management capacity to achieve the right or reasonable balance between being a wife, mother, and a businesswoman as well, which is very challenging in society. And we started then to design the products and service and solutions to support women entrepreneurs. We introduced the first lending program, Women in Business, that is based on data analytics to support women. It was to support their expansions, working capital requirements, tendering and guarantees, and so on. And it's very successful, by the way. In addition to, we avail technological solutions, all our internet banking and technological solutions so we can help women to execute all their banking needs and transactions seamlessly without the need to visit the branch, so they can, again, to achieve their work-life balance between business and family. Additionally, the awareness, back to awareness, we have adopted series of outreach, webinars, and networking events. So we need to highlighting on successful women entrepreneurs and success stories to spread what I call the infection of success. And this is perfectly tackling the self-confidence piece. So that was the value proposition that we built. Now I think the investments and the resources we put in the women empowerment domain is an ongoing process. It's a day-to-day operations. Yet we have a lot to do. We have a long to-do list. Hopefully we'll make a better impact in the future.
No, thank you, Hani, very much. I think you talked a lot about awareness. Definitely, I think there's many initiatives that are happening, many stories and success stories that are happening, but probably people are not aware. So we need to have more of those stories being told and more awareness of where those women entrepreneurs can go so that they can be successful. So thank you so much for sharing this. I'm going to shift gear a little bit and maybe Mirna, can you tell us a little bit more about your work, actually, and what efforts have been put forth by Microsoft to accelerate the digital transformation of both public and private organizations and to facilitate a more digital economy, like Hani was mentioning. I mean, digital makes life easier for women entrepreneurs. So what are the things that you're doing in Egypt?
Certainly, Laila, and this is really what this is the passion I go after every single day in my current role. So I think we can all agree that under the country's current strong leadership, our new Egypt is really ready to possess a competitive, diversified, and balanced economy that will be built on innovation and knowledge. And as you rightfully so said, with technology taking center stage, Microsoft has become even more critical in the country to really empower both public and private sector organization to transform, to adapt, and reshape the future that we're all aspiring to land. And with more than 25 years in the country and various strategic partnership, we are in a unique position to really empower and partner with the government to achieve the Sustainable Development Strategy and Egypt Vision 2030, and of course, the Digital Egypt strategy. So last year, we launched an initiative that is very close to my heart, and we called it the Microsoft Loves Egypt. This is basically our roadmap to support the country Vision 2030. And we develop it across 4 main ambitions. So the first one is delivering digital transformation across the various sectors. Second one is building a digital society. Third is building a digital economy, like rightfully so said. And the fourth is really landing key societal impact. So focusing on the digital transformation pillar and our first ambition, we have more than 60 ongoing digital transformation project across the various sectors. I can name a few, like the e-invoice and the e-receipt with the Ministry of Finance, like the work we're doing on digital justice with the Ministry of Justice, the work we're doing on the unified data center in the new administrative capital with MOD. And then one that is I'm personally very proud of is the work we're doing with the highly anticipated Grand Egyptian Museum. So that's on the digital transformation front. Secondly, on building a digital society, and we all touch base on this. It's very important that we really bridge the skills gap. So there are a lot of skilling and upskilling and reskilling initiatives that we're doing. And again, last year we launched in partnership with the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology a national skilling program that we call Tamayuz. And we're aiming at training more than 200,000 Egyptian youth every year, again, across different pillars and across the country. But speaking of skilling, I also have to mention one of our flagship skilling initiatives, Tawar Waghayar. It's an initiative that's been going on for more than 10 years. This one we've done in partnership with the Ministry of Youth and Sport. And we're really focusing on the underserved communities across the 27 governorates of the country, empowering them with digital literacy, digital skills, life skills. And in the 4 years, in the past 4 years alone, we were able to skill more than 1.5 million Egyptian youth, 53% of which were female, something we're truly proud of. Moving to digital economy, and like Hani mentioned, we really believe that SMEs and startups and entrepreneurs are the real lifeblood of our economy. And for the country to achieve sustainable economic growth, we need to empower those budding entrepreneurs and the SMEs. So again, we're working through a huge ecosystem of partners. To date, we have more than 1,000 local Egyptian companies that are part of our partner network in Microsoft, so that we do work together both in Egypt and outside of Egypt. And we have various partnerships to support startups, the latest of which is with TIDA, where we've committed to support and incubate more than 100 startups per year. As I said, they are foundational to our economic growth. And finally, on the driving societal change, which is also a very important pillar, we're proud to partner with MCIT on the presidential initiative Haya Karima, where we are focusing on, again, skilling entrepreneurs in the 4,500 villages of the initiative, focusing mainly on female entrepreneurs and micro entrepreneurs, and giving them the skills required to grow their business and achieve sustainable income and a decent life, like the initiative is supporting.
These are beautiful initiatives, Mirna, and I think skilling came so many times in your words. Such an important part of how we grow our societies together. And on that topic, I want to go to you again, Azza, because you're also very focused on education, and you have created an educational training hub called the Design Studio of Azza Fahmy in Cairo. So how are you empowering aspiring jewelry designers to help create a new generation of skilled artisans?
I think because Khan Khalili for me was okay, but it's not enough. Because when I went to Khan Khalili, I didn't have the ability to go abroad because in that time there was no good education in Egypt for jewelry. So I solved this one in a very simple way to learn the simple techniques that let me know about how to do a simple jewelry. But when my mind and my creative designs were better than my hand was stopped because my master can't tell me how to do these things because my designs was improved to the level of designers. I felt in that time that I need a better education. The British Council gave me a scholarship in London, and I went to London. I felt the difference between how to have this knowledge from a professor that he can tell you what to do. Anything came to your mind, he can tell you how to do it. I returned back completely shifted to another level of jewelry. And I felt that there is a lot of young Egyptian women or men in Egypt. You were in the same situation that you want to have this education and they didn't have at the time. I decided to open my studio, which is Azza Fahmy Design Studio, which is now graduate 100 artists from the last 10 years. It was a beautiful because most of we bring teachers from Europe. We trained important and famous artists in jewelry to teach them it was, I think it was because I feel that education is a key for anything to be successful. I'm happy that I did this. And not also, we have Azza Fahmy Foundation also, which helps yesterday.
Yes, that's so true. It's amazing to hear that something that you faced as you grew with such success, you're able to give it back to communities so they don't end up or you facilitate for them what was actually much harder for you. So thank you for sharing this, Azza. It's a great story. Asma, going back to you and thinking of all of this value system that we want to create around gender, how is this value system represented through your products as Société Générale?
Thank you, Leila. It was and it's a question, very difficult question, because I have to answer within two roles, the role as a person and the role as a CEO of a bank. And I try to combine with both of them, if I may. So we are a universal bank, and our products and financing tools and solutions are aimed to all our customers without distinction of gender, as long as the project is viable and it can be financed with our guidelines. We have a lot of marketing offers, such as, and it's a joke sometimes, pink card with women named for hair and so on, in French for sure and in Arabic. But I refuse to believe that the best way to address the subject is this way. Paradoxically, I think the initiative launched by Visa, Chase the Next, is a very good initiative, because what women need is more visibility, networking, the ability to be mentored with seniors who have the same experience in the same field, more than specific solution, because a women entrepreneur and a women client is a client and has the same demanding rules, the same characteristic. It's not an alien entrepreneur or an alien client. It's a client at the end of the day. At a global level, perhaps there are some tools. We have launched by our activity of asset management a social fund, and we're aiming to launch also a gender fund and a gender bond aimed to finance women entrepreneurs projects. We have doing a lot on skills sponsorship in order to help women as a mentor and as more experts. And what is important in Morocco also is that the regulator is looking more and more, the banking regulator, on this topic. And we began to do some steering on the metrics of financing the women projects and women entrepreneurs. So this will make a little push on the capacity, ability of the banks to more and more support women and finance their projects as a viable projects and a very interesting projects, as women have good ideas, big ideas, amazing projects, and we have the obligation to support them.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, you talked about metrics previously. I think there's always this combination of push and pull that we need to do actually to address the gender gap. So you talk about the regulator putting imposing some metrics on the financial services industry to actually address this. Hopefully one day we can get there without having to push too much, and it will only be pull strategies for everyone. And since we're talking about this, I'm gonna go again to you, Hani. And I think we know that getting funding has been a problem for women-led entrepreneurs, for more and venture and getting access to venture funds. So why do you think it is the case? And how do you think financial organizations can make it easier for women to obtain funding or financing for their business or ventures?
I strongly agree with you, Layla. It's a two-sided problem in my view. It's from the financial institutions or investors from one side, and from the women entrepreneurs from the other side. I think it's a clear perception issue in society. I think in the past, businesswomen experienced lack of confidence, which hindered their ability to apply for a bank loan or even equity finance in investments. Additionally, they mostly faced unconscious bias in the society or investors due to the wrong perception, either women manage better, men lead better, and so on. Now, I think it's clear that women lead differently. It's not about better or not. This is what I was talking about, the awareness itself. And honestly, in the past few years, we witnessed incredible movements, societal movements in the society towards supporting women. So I think now the perception of the role of the woman in the society is getting way better. The awareness is raised tremendously. And at the same time, we are in CIB, for instance. We adopted this holistic strategy. Now we have the right culture, the appealing product propositions, service model, technological solutions. I think proactive acquisition strategy is highly needed now from the financial institutions. We shouldn't be waiting for customers to knock your door and apply. We should go proactively and find those customers where they are in networking events, in certain industries, and so on. We in CIB leverage on data analytics capabilities to identify who are the businesses that are owned by women and most likely will be eligible for bank finance. And we go proactively and offer our services and products. Additionally, we contracted and we sponsored a lot of events, collaborate with governmental and private sector associations and women associations as well, to come up with potential prospects that can fit into the system of banking and get the financial support, regardless is it bank loan, financial service, or non-financial services. We had Growing Together initiative in CIB to support small businesses with special dedication for women as well. We formulated the League of Professional Service Providers. It is very important for women-led businesses is the non-financial services as well, to upgrade their capacities. We formulated the League of third-party providers, either marketing agencies, legal firms, HR, advisory, recruitment, and so on. So we can avail the access to women-led businesses to better run their business and grow. Once we had all these infrastructures, now we can have a lot of prospects of women-led businesses and trying to fill in the funnel and the pipeline with plenty of and loads of customers that are eligible. That will increase the likelihood of having those customers onboarded, and at the same time to avail equal opportunity for women to get the required access to finance. Now, proudly can say we reached around 18 to 20% of our total SME portfolio is directed to women-led businesses in CIB. I think this is a big achievement. And I want to highlight one point, that every step and every resource and investment we put in this business, it's very well spent. It has its returns, has very high returns as well. The journey is so long. We can, again, we have a lot of to-do list to do. Hopefully the next time we'll tell you more about our activities in CIB and domain. It was a dream or aspiration a few years ago. Now it's a strategy that's being executed on the ground. Tomorrow it will be a proven success story that we all will be proud of, inshallah.
Amazing, Annie, from a dream to a strategy to success. That's really great. And I think for me, I mean, if there's something I'm very passionate about beyond gender diversity is obviously financial inclusion. And we know that there are 1.4 billion adults in the world that are unbanked. And the reality is that the majority of those are women. So it's great to see some of those pull strategies to actually attract more women into the financial inclusion sector. And talking about inclusion, I want to go to you, Mirna, and talking also about a field that I'm very passionate about, which is the science, technology, engineering, art, and math fields. And I know that you do a lot to empower women to succeed in those fields. So why is it important? Why do you think it matters?
It does matter. It matters a lot. And I think you mentioned it, Laila. I mean, study after study and analysis after analysis have shown that inclusive economies can truly outpace others in growth. And I think there was actually a recent study by PwC, the Women in Employment Index report in 2021. Actually, this was a very, very interesting study. It showed that if the 37 countries of the OECD had the same female representation in employment as that of Sweden, they could add up to $6 trillion into their combined GDP. That's huge. That's a huge amount. And that's just by pushing inclusivity. So I think as our economies continue to transform, and again, coming closer to home, looking at the same numbers in Egypt and looking at CapMass, the female representation in the workforce is still minimal. If you look at the latest reports, again, it shows that women aged 15 and above represent only 14.3% of the workforce in Egypt, and we still have a huge potential to grow. And as I mentioned earlier, with digitization, with Digital Egypt strategy, with our Egypt Vision 2030, technology is truly taking center stage. And this puts a huge responsibility on companies like Microsoft to really drive and support into bridging the gap, because again, the needs for advanced technical skills is becoming more and more important. And we're doing a lot of work and a lot of other initiatives on that. I mean, some of them is the She Codes initiative. This is an initiative that we launched with the Ministry of Youth and Sport, aiming at training 7,500 women, again, aged between 16 and 30, just giving them really the foundation of coding and the power of computing and programming. We also launched last year Women Texters, and this is an African initiative. This targets women aged 18 to 40 across 54 countries in Africa, and Egypt is truly leading on that front. Again, giving them, focusing mainly on female entrepreneurs and providing advanced and deep technical skilling for these women. And I mean, I can go on and on and on. This is a huge focus for us. We truly believe that diversity and inclusion is really a shared responsibility and a joint accountability. It is through initiatives like She's Next and so many more. It's like showcasing the role models, like driving awareness, like Hani mentioned, that we can tell female that it can be done, and it can be done. And it's on us to support them.
Yeah, I love the title She Codes, actually. I think one study I read was that girls lose interest in the field of math and science very early on, at the age around between 8 years and 10 years old. So it's very important that we continue to spark this interest in them at this very young age, so that they are able to continue potentially in studies into those very important fields that are also a big source of jobs for those women across the globe. I want to thank you all. I think I have one final question to all of our panelists, and this time it's going to be the same question to everyone. We know that there are more than, I think, 1,400 definitions and 44 theories on leadership. But I think for us today and in our region, in a word, what is, according to you, the 3 most important traits women need to possess for their business to be disruptors? So 3 most important traits. If I can start with you, Azza.
A good team is very important. You have to have a great team. Not only that, they believe in you and they believe in your dream, and your dream is part of their dreams. And you have to go hand in hand to make this dream come true. The other thing is you have to have a clear vision about what you are doing, because it's not easy. But there's always be a risk, and you might fail in some of these steps, but don't worry, you will go up and walk again. Always ask for advice if you don't know. And this was a great help for me. I was always around me people which is advise me when I need it. I think this is, for me, it was the 3 more important.
Thank you so much for sharing, Azza. Asma?
I'll be very quick. I think innovative, because it's important to think out of the box and to think about new things in order to create a difference between all the other businesses. To be agile. We have seen what have happened on the world with the pandemic crisis, and what's happened on us, on our countries, on our economies, on our people, and so on. And the key word was agility on this period. What is happening also today with the war crisis, impacting us day after day. And the third trait is to be daring and not to be blocked by our proper obstacles, to dare, because the world is open to us and we have a lot to do.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you, Asma. Hani?
I think you said it all. I totally agree with all what you said. I think vision is very important, my view. Finding the support system and place yourself in a network of success that make you intellectually challenged. I think this is the second. And the third is leveraging a good team and the right structure in your company so you can make the balance again between family and business.
Thank you, Hani. And last but not least, Mirna.
Three things, and I agree with everything that was said, of course, but I would say balance. And here, I don't mean achieving the perfect work-life balance, because that's a myth, it doesn't exist, but it's rather really managing balance, finding your own balance. Balance is very important. Curiosity, as we said, the eagerness to constantly learn. So curiosity and courage would go together, pushing the boundaries, getting outside of your comfort zone. And third is empathy. And I think empathy is becoming now more and more a key trait of leadership. Maybe it hasn't been in the past 5 or 10 years, but empathy is very, very important. And finally, I mean, diversity and inclusion altogether is really not a destination by itself. It's a journey, and it's up to us all to walk that path.
Thank you so much, Mirna, for sharing this. Yeah, I agree. I think we're all on this journey together. If I add one is not only believing in your dream, but also dream. Keep on dreaming. I think we can find our passion, whether early on or later on in our careers, but dream is extremely important. So I want to thank you all for sharing your views today, for letting us dream, but also giving us some very insightful tips to all the people who are listening to us. I really appreciate everyone's time. And I also a big thank you to all the viewers that are joining us this afternoon for this session. And I'm gonna give it over to you, Ramya. Thank you.
Thank you, Leila, for leading that fantastic discussion. And thank you once again to all of your great panelists. Now, I'd like to congratulate the female entrepreneurs from Saudi Arabia who have secured the prize grant for their early stage businesses. Please, ladies, if you would present your elevator pitches and talk a little bit about how you plan to grow your businesses with the grant.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dina Shabib, and I'm the founder and CEO of Tijah Coaching Consulting. Tijah turned 10 years last year, and to celebrate, we put together a short little video about it. I'd like to play this video for you so you can get a better idea about who we are and what we do. Tijah is a coaching consulting company focused on human capital development. We are a social enterprise, which means that every project we take on has a social impact to it. Our aim is to empower people to reach their highest potential, whether personally or professionally. Since we started in 2011, over 7,000 beneficiaries have gone through our programs or benefited from our initiatives. We are very proud of the impact we've had over the past 10 years. When we develop and run programs for our clients and beneficiaries, it's very important to us to make sure that we can provide the maximum value possible. We measure our success by the impact we create in our societies. We serve our clients through our coaching arm, where we run programs such as the National Internship Program of 2015 and 2016 that we ran for the Ministry of Higher Education here in Bahrain, and the MENA Hackathon that we just ran in partnership with Tamkeen and powered by Amazon Web Services. We also provide consulting services to our clients to help them with their growth and strategies. And we look forward to another 10 years of amazing impact. So to help illustrate a little bit more about what kind of programs we do and what are the services that Tijah offers, I'd like to talk about two of my favorite programs. Ladies Who Lead is actually my favorite program, and it is a leadership development program that we designed with the aim of helping young professional women in the beginning of their career to develop and excel
throughout their career. The program had 110 participants. It was a combination of workshops, speaker sessions, career coaching sessions, as well as some networking sessions. And it was a huge success because the feedback we got that over 97% of our participants said that they would recommend this program to anyone. My second favorite program is the virtual internship program. And this one is a program that came out of a need from the pandemic. So in the summer of 2020, when the pandemic began, we had a lot of students calling us and asking us for internships, if we can help them find internships, because at that time companies were struggling to deal with their own challenges and their own problems when the pandemic started, that they didn't really have time to take on interns that summer. And a lot of universities require internships to do students to do an internship so that they can graduate. So we decided we'll try and help out. We'll do this as a CSR initiative, and we can probably, through our partnerships, place 50 interns in virtual internships. We opened the applications for this program, and in the first month, we had 700 applicants applying for this program. So we did our best, and by the end of the year, we managed to place 250 interns in that internship program. So we're really very proud of that. Our plans right now for the future are to continue to digitize and to use all the platforms that we have available, to continue to expand our reach, even though we are currently based out of Saudi and we have an office in Bahrain. Through our programs, we've reached participants in all of the Middle East and North African regions, and we want to continue to do so. We also try to align with the United Nations SDGs and continue to educate and spread awareness, as well as work towards gender equality through the programs that we do, through the leadership programs that we do that are catered to women. And right now we are looking for strategic partnerships to help us actually achieve these goals. Thank you very much.
My name is Amna Yaqub. I'm the founder of Smartista. Smartista is an online platform to serve the artists and the art organizations. We have three main issues for the artists and the art organizations. In Saudi, we have 7 million interested in visual art, and unfortunately, we don't have any art guidance. And this is for the artists, and if they want to share their artwork in the galleries, they are facing a high amount in galleries commission. As well, they are facing major challenges in order to showcase their artwork online. And for the art organizations in Saudi, they are facing a weak marketing, weak sales, and weak audience. So Smartista is one place that provides services to meet the needs of both the artists and art organizations. This is our product overview. This is the homepage. It's an interactive platform where the artists can share their ideas and their articles, their questions. It's a community, the artist community. And we have events calendar. They can check and book the upcoming events and all the events. It's about visual art. And we have art map. We are covering 22 countries, and we have more than 1,700 art organizations around the world. We have the artist store. We have two sections under the artist store: the art materials. The users and the artists, they can buy their art materials from the store, and also they can upload their artwork, and we will be responsible of the logistic and all of these things. We have art courses. They can book the courses either if it's online or offline. And we already start operating, and this is our partner list. And we have sponsored like more than 8 art exhibitions in KSA. The new version of Smartista app is coming soon, but you can visit smartista-store.net if you want to see more. We are providing art gifts and art showing case the artworks, original artworks, and we are selling tickets for art sessions and the art materials. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing your fantastic business ideas. It's now time for a fireside chat with a fiery influencer who will highlight the issues faced by individuals and businesses in the cyber world. We'll explore the paths to avoid and the measures that should be taken to tackle cyberbullying. She is the UAE and MENA region's first international competitive figure skater and 5-time UAE national champion, as well as the first to be so while wearing the hijab. While she began skating at the late age of 12 years old, she has beaten the odds and has achieved the highest level in spins, technique, and triple jumps. Besides being a champion figure skater, she graduated from Abu Dhabi University, majoring in environmental health and safety. She is the founder of Emirates Skating Club, which was the first figure skating club in the UAE. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce Zahra Lari. Thanks so much for joining us today, Zahra. Now, how can we make the digital and the cyber world more safe, more secure, and resilient? A place for our present as well as for future generations.
Thank you so much for having me today. I think it's really important to talk about the topic of cyberbullying, especially nowadays with technology on the rise, and for the future generation, especially with the younger kids. I think it's a super important topic. For me personally, I believe that we really need to focus, especially as parents. I'm a soon-to-be mom, so it is something that I think about all the time with my daughter coming in the future. We cannot stop them from using technology, so we really have to monitor what they're doing. So I think the main thing is parents definitely need to monitor what their kids are doing on all technology, whether it's social media. They really need to monitor it. And I think also communication has to be there, the trust has to be there, that the child can go to the parent and can discuss these things with them as well.
So is this why you've taken an interest in cyberbullying, because you have a daughter on the way? I mean, did you ever experience cyberbullying, and how did you handle or confront that situation?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've always had an interest with cyberbullying because, I mean, it's really bad to see how people suffer from it, either mentally or a lot of people do have to go through a lot when it comes to cyberbullying, and it's really sad to see that. And I never want my daughter to experience that. But personally, I did go through cyberbullying. I think everyone in this generation has at some point. But I think the main thing for me was to really focus on the idea that it's just someone behind a phone or behind a camera, and they would never say it to my face. So it's just ignoring them, and to have my family support there and to tell me that just ignore them and keep doing what you're doing.
So rather than confront the person who was bullying you, you ignored them, which is probably a great tactic. And what do you think is the best course of action for someone who is going through cyberbullying?
I think it really depends on how severe it is. And if it's something small, I think you definitely have to tell either your parent or someone older. You definitely have to tell someone about it, because they will help you with it. But I think if it is really severe, then I think you should tell the authorities about it so they can also take action.
And regarding the authorities, I mean, do you think the Middle East needs to place more stringent and more severe laws to penalize cyberbullies and people who are conducting cyber harassment?
Personally, I think especially the UAE is doing such a great job when it comes to cyberbullying. They take it very seriously. If anyone has someone saying anything bad about them on social media, you immediately tell the authorities, and the authorities do take action immediately. So I think they're taking this topic very seriously, especially in the past few years. And I think it's a really good thing, because you can see it that it's decreasing, especially here in the UAE.
Well, as a former figure skater myself, growing up in Canada, we were all figure skaters. I can tell you that you're a source of pride for everyone in the UAE who follows your career. And what was the most memorable moment for you as a figure skater?
I think for me, it was there are of course a million memories when it comes to me going to competitions, but I think there are two that really stand out. The first one was my first ever international competition, where I was the first person wearing the hijab and competing. And because of that competition, the rules got changed, and now females are allowed to wear hijab while competing in figure skating. So I think that was one of the highlights of my career. And then the second one was me going to the Winter Universiade, because it was the first time ever UAE was able to go to the Winter Universiade, and it was a very proud moment for me to be able to raise my country flag there.
Wonderful. And you set a precedent by wearing the hijab that day and by having the hijab being welcome at all figure skating tournaments now. So congratulations on that. Thank you for chatting with me today, Zahra.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I'd now like to congratulate the winners from Egypt so that they may talk to us about their businesses and the growth trajectory they've envisioned with this new capital in hand.
Hi, I'm Miriam, owner and co-founder of Greenhouse. First of all, I wanted to thank you for picking us up and for giving us the opportunity to showcase our company. In the past 12 years, I struggled with weight loss. I wanted to lose weight and look my best without starving myself. And I think this is something we all could relate to. I was so busy working and I didn't have time to meal prep or to cook for myself. And I didn't find anything that was healthy and ready to eat in the market. So I decided I'm not going to be part of the problem anymore. I'm going to be part of the solution. I'm going to help people by making what I love the most, which is salads that are delicious, healthy, and easily prepared. In Greenhouse, we produce a wide range of salad mix bags and vegetables that are washed and ready to eat, along with salad dressings, dips, healthy snacks, and many more. We make it easy for busy people to eat more whole food and greens without wasting any time or effort. And we encourage them to lead a healthier and a greener lifestyle. And we always refer to ourselves in Greenhouse as being green fast food. We want to be green inside out, and we cannot do that without being sustainable. So all of our waste is fed to the animals and being transformed into organic compost, which goes back to the land. And all of our glass and plastic waste is sent to are sent to recycling facilities. Are sent to recycling facilities. We always encourage our customers to reuse our packaging material in the kitchen and around the house, whether it was the glass bottles or jars or the plastic salad bags itself. Everything that you've heard of is done by a powerful group of ladies. Our factory is dominated by women, and 90% of our employees are ladies. Ever since I started, I wanted to make sure that each and every person on my team has a fair pay and a safe and secure and comfortable working environment where they could grow, learn, and improve their skills, and of course, reach their fullest potential. Let's go to the numbers. We started on a very small scale in 2017. And in 2018, we had a huge jump in our sales, where we closed the year with a total sales of 1 million Egyptian pounds. We could move to the slide where we have the numbers. Like I said, in 2017, we started on a very small scale. And in 2018, we had a huge jump in our sales, closing the year with 1 million Egyptian pounds in total sales. In 2019, we had another huge jump where we closed the year at a total sales of 5 million Egyptian pounds. In 2020, COVID hit and we got affected just like everybody else. So we closed the year with 6.3 total Egyptian pounds in total sales. In 2021, things were a little bit bumpy due to COVID still. So we closed the year with 7.2 million Egyptian pounds in total sales. In 2022, I'm optimistic and I'm considered a year of a comeback, and I'm hoping to close the year with a total increase in sales by 15%. We work so hard around the clock just to be the #1 leading company in Egypt, producing washed and ready-to-eat vegetables and fruits. I don't struggle with weight loss anymore, thank God, but my dream for Greenhouse continues to serve more customers with quick and fresh green fast food. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Laila Hasaballah and I'm one of the co-founders at Bellies en Route. I wanted to take a moment to thank Forbes Middle East for having us speak today. We really appreciate the support and exposure. My business partner Mariam and I were both originally graphic designers with no prior experience in the tourism industry. However, through our love for food, travel, and culture, we were able to identify a gap in the Egyptian market when it comes to culinary experiences. And that's why we started Bellies en Route, Egypt's first specialized food tour business. Although Egypt is a very food-centric culture, it was always overlooked on the culinary map worldwide. We've often heard tourists express thoughts like, is this person going to scam me? Instead of, wow, she really knows what she's talking about. Or, I wish I understood this menu because of the obvious language barrier. But what we really wanted them to feel was, wow, what an amazing combination of dishes. And finally, am I even allowed to ask this question? Versus, this feels like a safe space to learn. What better way to learn about a culture than through a delicious spread of authentic dishes? And because we believe there's more to food than just eating, we started Bellies en Route, where we create meaningful culinary experiences that bring people together. These are some of the happy faces that have been on tour with us. Since our start in 2016, we've toured with over 4,000 guests from more than 50 countries. And along the way, we managed to collect over 270 positive reviews and 4 certificates of excellence from TripAdvisor. Our guests often tell us that this has been the highlight of their trip, that they thoroughly enjoyed their time with their guide, and that they would recommend this wholeheartedly. But also that they only got to try these dishes and walk the streets on our tour. Our business model is very simple. Our guests book their spots online by paying a one-time fee that's all inclusive of the tour, and we manage payments directly with our vendors to ensure all stakeholders are fairly paid. Our impact has been incredible so far, and just in the past year, even though COVID had a very negative effect on us and the restaurants, we were able to generate over 320,000 Egyptian pounds for these 20 small family-owned restaurants that employ over 100 staff members. Also, through our no food waste policy, we've managed to donate more than 1,000 meals so far. And finally, within the tourism industry, which is male-dominated here in Egypt, our team is actually 70% female. Our growth strategy is as follows. We're working on expanding to other parts of Egypt to be able to expand in terms of opportunities for the locals as well as foreigners to experience more of Egypt, especially through immersive cooking experiences. We're also developing our existing products to make them accessible for a wider market, and that's why we're offering our tours in French starting November. Finally, we're creating a community of local food and culture lovers to teach them about the cuisines of the world, all within Cairo. We're certain that in the next few years, our impact will multiply, and we're very happy to have this opportunity to present our work today. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks so much for sharing your fantastic ideas with us, ladies, and congratulations once again on this grant. Welcome everyone to this very important conversation about approaches that we can take to facilitate new peer networks and social capital. We're going to tackle the challenges and chances one has to form a peer network, which in turn aids in developing resilience and the capacity to constructively respond to risk or adversity. We have a fantastic panel of industry experts. I'm joined by Nadine Halabi, Business Development Manager at Dubai Business Women's Council, Leslie Reed, Mission Director at the U.S. Agency for International Development in Egypt, Sara Al-Binali, Group Head of Corporate and Commercial Banking at First Abu Dhabi Bank, and Elisa Friha, Founder and CEO and Board Member at Wamina. Thanks so much for being with us. Now, Ms. Halabi, how are you at Dubai Business Women's Council supporting and empowering Arab women entrepreneurs by really developing their skills through education, through training, mentoring, and providing networking opportunities that aid in their holistic development?
First of all, thank you, Ramya, and thank you everyone for having me. Since the establishment of the Council in 2002, our main mission and the biggest passion we've had is to provide all kinds of support that entrepreneurs, business owners, or businesswomen at large needed. And of course, you've basically summed them up all. It's about networking, it's about growth and skill development. And the only way to build your skills is to keep honing them through taking part in workshops, seminars, participating in forums, finding out what best practices are happening around there. In addition to that, we have 3 very important initiatives that we have been extremely passionate about growing and developing, especially for our members. And they are related to our Entrepreneurship Accelerator and Incubator programs. And since 2012, we've brought to the table various accelerator programs, of course, done in partnership with large organizations, as well as small, medium enterprises who wanted to give back to the community. And the purpose of these accelerator programs was basically to help our members either set up or scale up a business. In addition to that, we've been extremely passionate about our mentorship programs. We've utilized our network of partners to join us on board and take part in these as mentors. And by that, we've paired them with members of the council who really needed that kind of guidance and support for their careers. Last but not least, we have our diversity and inclusion initiatives. And although we are an organization that does not create policies, we put together forums and platforms to discuss the best practices that are taking place in the private and the public sector to not only retain women in the workforce, but to also create a more inclusive environment within the working community. So it's basically a combination of everything, yes.
A combination of diversity and inclusion, mentorship programs, accelerator programs. I'm going to ask you more about the accelerator programs in just a moment. But now I'd like to turn to Ms. Reed. Could you elaborate on the initiatives being put forth by USAID to really drive women's economic empowerment, which will in turn really serve as a catalyst towards sustainable development?
Thank you, Ramya, and thank you for having me here today. And thank you to Visa and Forbes for organizing, I think, this really important panel. I've served as mission director in 4 African countries, Egypt, Uganda, Ethiopia, and South Sudan. And as such, much of my life's work has really been around empowering women in parts of the world where women face particularly big challenges. You know, if you've worked on this continent, you know that women work really hard. But did you know that in Egypt, only 23% of working age women are participating in the economy, compared to 75% of men? It's only 23%. It is estimated that if women participated in Egypt's workforce at the same rate as men, GDP would increase by somewhere between 34 and 60%, which could add as many as 7 million new jobs. Now, of course, that's huge. So empowering women is one of our top priorities at the US government. USAID in particular values the crucial role that women play in a country's economic development. Our administrator, Samantha Power, said, in order to advance democracy, build stronger economies, and make lasting development gains globally, we absolutely must invest in the rights and opportunities of women and girls in all of their diversity all around the world. In fact, our gender equality and women's empowerment policy emphasizes our very strong belief that investing in women can unlock human potential on a truly transformational scale. And that's why we at USAID actively integrate gender and women's empowerment across our programs. Over the last 4 decades in Egypt, we've invested billions of US dollars to empower Egyptian women and girls. We're committed to empowering Egyptian women across sectors and really across the entire country. From education and health to agriculture and water, we work across sectors to harness women and girls' potential to lead their communities and their country. We have to promote inclusive access to education, healthcare, housing, food, jobs, and of course, protection from violence, which is a particular challenge here. One of the initiatives that we're really proud of is our work supporting women entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship training, including mentorship, the networks that we just heard about, women entrepreneurs, training for professional women. This all gives tools to women to create their own economic opportunity, as well as to create jobs for others. In recent years, the United States government, through the USAID, has invested over $56 million US dollars to enhance the capabilities of Egypt's workforce and to strengthen the skills and opportunities of Egypt's increasingly vibrant entrepreneurial class. And I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight just one specific initiative. Together with Visa, we're empowering micro, small, and medium enterprises with a special focus on women-led businesses. A couple of weeks ago, I had the privilege of hearing pitches from 10 incredible women-led startups during Visa's She's Next Winner Selection event in Egypt. Each woman was so passionate, confident, and they were all very inspiring. So as judges, we had to pick just 5 winners, but honestly, we thought that they were all winners. I believe it is so important for women, in the public and private sectors to work together to support women entrepreneurs like those 10 businesses, because we all know that when women succeed, a family succeeds, the community succeeds, and ultimately, of course, a country succeeds. So by working together to reduce gender disparities and to empower women and girls, the United States is committed to helping Egypt build an economically vibrant, inclusive, stable, and sustainable future.
Wonderful, the collaboration you're doing with Visa there. And it's very disappointing, 23% of Egyptian women in the workforce. Hopefully your work will help to improve those numbers. I know that Ms. Al-Binali is also working with Visa. Tell us how FAB, in partnership with Visa, is really empowering women entrepreneurs by providing them with resources and networks and knowledge to open a pathway towards growing their business.
Thank you, Ramya. It's a pleasure to be part of this panel and truly inspired to be amongst all these women driving these initiatives for women. From an FAB perspective, we want to be part of a strong and positive future for the women in business. And She's Next is helping us create that future. When Visa told us that they would be introducing She's Next to the Middle East, this is their first time in the region. We were extremely excited to partner with them here in the UAE to help, drive and develop the conversation on women as an entrepreneur. As a bank, we are very passionate about supporting SMEs. It's a very important segment here in the UAE, and we are working with the government on various initiatives to drive this. Parallelly, we have also launched our ESG initiative and strategy last year, where diversity and inclusion is one of our main pillars. So it's very timely for us to marry the two together to help and support the women entrepreneurs in their journey forward. This is, She's Next is a first step in bridging the gender gap, and it's just the start of the conversation that we look forward to, continuing within the community.
And we look forward to participating in that conversation as it continues. Now, Ms. Friha, as the largest women empowerment platform in the Middle East, how are you empowering women in business and women entrepreneurs by not only providing them access to funding, but giving them a platform that provides networking opportunities?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on this panel today. This is my life's work. So as a female entrepreneur myself who moved to the Middle East and moved to the UAE to start a company, I realized very early on that a lot of the advice that I received was not necessarily catered to a female's experience in the region. And I think in the last decade that Womena's been around, we have seen an emergence of so many amazing programs that are helping women at least break through the earlier boundaries of entrepreneurship. That wasn't the case 10 years ago when I started. Womena is now a feminist media company, essentially, and that's become our focus because in the first, we continue to target lots of different areas that women essentially need support and help in. We started out as an investor platform, empowering female investors to invest in early stage tech startups. And we built that network focusing on educating these women and facilitating the entire investment process, essentially holding their hand through a very intimidating and often guarded experience. And through that, we then saw that actually women investors were able to invest more with more balance, with less of a subconscious bias. And so they were providing funding more towards female-led startups, even if we weren't only presenting them with female-led startups. But we then realized that actually the quality of the female-led startups was quite low. So after about 3 years of focusing on the investor side of things, we launched an accelerator program called Momentum in partnership with Standard Chartered and Latham & Watkins, Google, and the UAE government. And we hosted this accelerator for 3 years across multiple countries, essentially finding the best of the best female-led startups and making sure that we could offer them a unique experience and access to a unique network that was very much curated for their success. Now, this is something that, access to investment is not really the issue. Access to partners and peers and networks of support that can guide you and help you and manufacture that ladder to success. That's what we really need. And that's why, let's say, the US economy is doing so well and the tech space there is so well, because they have a completely constructed ecosystem that manufactures the success. And so for Wamina, it's really about plugging all the holes that we see in society that will eventually help women reach the top. And the fact that we've shifted now after, the accelerator and the investment into focusing on media, that's really to tell the success stories of the women investors and the women entrepreneurs that have gone through our programs, and to almost humanize their perception, or the perception of them, to the public. Because very often a female entrepreneur might get into a very male-dominated investment space or pitch to a lot of VCs, and they might be treated as part of a quota of female investment or diversity that needs to be, increased in that VC's, plan for that year. But they're not necessarily spoken to or sat down with as individuals, as humans. And what we saw from the storytelling that we have been doing, and the storytelling around even the accelerator, is that our founders, for the first time, were able to get into certain rooms and weren't being met with, okay, this is another female-led tech startup. They were being met with, we saw what you're doing. It's so impressive and innovative. How can we help and how can we work together? And I think that's really now that element is what's most needed, because peers are only peers when they recognize you as the same. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to shift that perception of women so that people recognize them as one of their own, as not a foreign or an other or a number or a stat that they have to increase, but really recognize them as potential contributors to the economic growth and to innovation that we're all so desperately looking to foster.
Thank you. And we have so many examples of this type of work in this webinar. It's wonderful to have so many participants who have experienced and benefited from initiatives such as yours. Ms. Halabi, tell us about the accelerator programs that you mentioned earlier, how they're supporting women, and what other initiatives and programs have been launched at Dubai Business Women's Council that really support, empower, and facilitate female entrepreneurs in the UAE.
So what we've done since 2013, we have been collaborating with our ecosystem of partners to make sure that we work closely with organizations who want to give back to the businesswomen community by putting together accelerator programs, not as complex as Elisa's amazing projects, but something smaller scale for our members, something that we can offer at least once a year over a period of 6 to 10 months. And what we do is we approach the multinational organizations or the big companies who have the resources and have the talented people and the people with the great success stories to come together and work with us on curating a 6 to 10 week program that will enable our members who wish to take part in these accelerator programs to actually learn the ABCs or the 1, 2, 3s of actually what it takes to set up a business, or what it is that they need to be able to scale up their business to the next level. And over the years, we've worked on amazing and very successful accelerator programs with the likes of MasterCard, Barclays, MindCloud, Creative Zone. We've launched 2 accelerator program cycles in the last 2 years. And the first one was actually launched during the pandemic. So in the pandemic, we were able to have 130 participants come forward and take part in this program. And last but not least, this year, we are super proud to be collaborating with Visa and Fab on the She's Next initiative. So basically, we try to work, as I said, with entities and people who want to give back to the community. The agenda is very straightforward. We leave it to the experts to actually curate and put together the content of these amazing accelerator programs. And at the end of the day, we try to provide the ones who make it to the final stage, or the winners, or the best ideas for a business, to be given some kind of a reward, whether it's monetary, whether it's a trade license, that's a free trade license for 2 years, any kind of support that will help them take off their business we'll try to work around them and provide them with this opportunity. Aside from that, we are strong believers in mentorship. And I've mentioned that earlier on in my first question, when you asked me the first question. Mentorship to us is extremely important. And we've seen over the last 3 years how much it was able to impact and change the lives of so many of our business women members. We have a lot of entrepreneurs who are part of the Dubai Businesswomen Council, who are extremely passionate and attached to their businesses. But with COVID, so many things have been shifted, so many things have been changed. They need the guidance, they need the kind of professional mentorship support to help take them from one phase to another or salvage their business, which are based on amazing business plans. But then again, they did not have access to the resources. They did not have access to these people. So what we did is we helped connect them with the right mentors. And you would be surprised to know that we've had some amazing men and women who are pioneers in their own industries come forward to actually offer their help and to take part in this program and mentor these amazing entrepreneurs and businesswomen. And aside from that, we're always looking for opportunities to connect our business women with other networks. Because at the end of the day, we're here to represent Dubai. We are in no competition with any private network or business group or business club. We work with everyone. We're supposed to work with everyone for the larger benefit of the businesswomen community. And it's amazing how when you network and you connect people together, the prosperity behind business opportunities, partnership opportunities just come out of the woodwork and actually transform so many lives. So networking is basically the net worth of a lot of success stories of entrepreneurs who are part of the Dubai Businesswomen Council.
And hopefully in the near future, we will overcome all of the impediments that arose during the pandemic. Next time we chat, maybe you will tell us all about that. Ms. Reed, I would like to know how you're really working together with organizations in Egypt to reduce barriers to women's economic and social participation and improve the work environment for women in the private sector. I mean, you mentioned the huge cash influx from the United States into Egypt to assist in this matter, but tell us about some detailed initiatives, if you would.
Sure. We've heard a lot about some of the barriers that women confront in Egypt from an employment perspective. There's, of course, the same, I think, income gap that we see around the world. Here it's something like 34% less earned if you're a woman than if you're a man. And so a complex problem like this, we think, really requires a complex response. So we have a flagship women's economic empowerment program that addresses 3 interrelated challenges: the workplace bias and social pressures that discourage the hiring and retention, financing, and support of women that Elisa talked about, the limited financial autonomy that women experience here in Egypt, and then finally, the violence against women. So together with the government of Egypt and the private sector through our Women's Economic Social Empowerment Program, we're promoting equal employment opportunities for women and changing attitudes towards gender equality in the workplace. We're working to increase women's access to financial services and to protect them from violence. Now, we all know that empowerment doesn't just mean that a woman has a job. It also means that she has the same access to opportunities and finance that men do, in addition to the obvious need to be free from harassment and violence. One of our goals is to improve women's employment rates and leadership roles in selected industries and really across the country, and to link women to digital financial services to give them greater agency in their lives and in their households. We believe this will improve access to health, to legal, to psychosocial services, including for those who are survivors of violence. Through a public awareness campaign, we aim to increase public support for women and girls. And this goes to, again, to this notion of bias that is, I think, a jointly held vision in many of our countries, their role in the workforce and their voice in society. And this is just the latest example of our shared commitment to Egypt to empower women and to achieve greater gender equity. We think this is a crucial strategic partnership to achieve the overarching goals of expanding women's economic opportunity, protecting their dignity, and ultimately safeguarding their health and well-being, and of course, unlocking their full human potential.
Such a stark contrast between the challenges faced by women business leaders and business people in Egypt and those here in the UAE and in Dubai. Ms. Al-Binali, how are you really helping female SMEs by providing them access to funding?
From our perspective, as I mentioned earlier, the SME segment is a key sector for us at FAB, and we're very passionate about supporting this segment. It truly is the heart of what the economy is all about. In parallel, what we're trying to do is, in addition to supporting the SME, where there are many women entrepreneurs already, and they're an integral part of it, we are looking towards developing more customized products and services that help cater to the women entrepreneurs within the segment. I think FAB as an institution has already demonstrated its strong commitment towards gender equality. It is one of the first banks in the UAE to commit with specific targets within the organization. And already, if you look within an FAB, almost a third of our own, mid to senior executives are females in 2021. And we are hoping this internal focus on women internally will also translate outside to our customers and support them in their journey towards growth.
That's wonderful, and I think that that's also attributable to government initiatives. So that's a great progress that we're seeing there. Ms. Friha, tell us more about how you're really supporting female-led startups and female-led tech startups, in particular across the Middle East, by assisting them so they're able to grow and move forward in their businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. As Wamina was shifting more towards shifting perceptions as a focus, my focus as an individual became to use all of the networks that we've built over the last decade to work with a dedicated portfolio. So I only personally invest in exclusively female-led tech startups around the world, and I use all the networks that we have to help get them more funding, to help get them registered if they need to expand, whether they're in Africa, in Europe, and they want to expand into the UAE. That's where my role at the Dubai Chamber Digital Economy is, as a board member there. I'm really, really passionate about this. So I've actually catered like my own little, A team of lawyers and consultants and accountants that are willing to work with these startups that I know don't hold on to these subconscious biases. So they're really invested in helping and guiding our founders in the best possible way. I also mentor heavily. So and they don't necessarily have to be my own portfolio companies. So either myself, or if I see that they have a very specific need, I can put them in touch with somebody who can guide them in the right way as well. But I think it's all of our responsibility. Every single person on this panel is a role model for somebody. And it's important to own that. It's not a question of pride or of ego. It's just a question of experience and fearlessness. And for us, we've had these experiences. We are fearless having gone through them now, and we need to pass that on to the next generation. And I think it's really important to personally continue to empower and guide and push for the success of women. So that's where most of my efforts go to now.
It's really inspirational. Ms. Halabi, why would you say it's essential for women to have a support network that helps to drive professional growth for their entrepreneurial success? I mean, can you echo some of the sentiments of Ms. Friha?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I am a firm believer in two things, partnerships and collaborations, and of course, allyship. I think that if people work together, better things would come out of it, especially when we're talking about women. Elisa said that, I mean, us as women on this panel, we owe it to a lot in the business community to actually take part and do something by just maybe mentoring or giving back. And I think this is the bare minimum that we should do. I think every woman who is a team leader, whether it's a small company, a larger company, it does not matter the size of the organization that you work for, as long as you give back somehow. And I feel, from what I've seen during the last 11 years of my employment at the Dubai Businesswomen Council, I feel like one of the most largest issues that women have is that they don't support each other enough. They say they do, but they don't. Because support can be something, it doesn't have to be big or financial. It could be anything. It could be introducing somebody to another company and maybe having them partner up together to either complete each other's business plans or help them lower certain overheads or whatever it is. It's small baby steps that could come a long way. And I feel that women should do more of that. We focus a lot on empowerment and we focus a lot on, skill development, but, women are doing great. Women are empowered. Society at large needs to be empowered. The men need to be more empowered. Children need to be more empowered. And this is like a 360 cycle that needs to come together to give back and for us to start seeing results. I believe that networking is very important. Yes, it's 50% of what we do here at Dubai Businesswomen Council, because great success stories can result out of networking with people. That's why they say your network is your net worth. And so we always try to find ways to come together with organizations or clubs or councils and connect with them so that we can have our members meet like-minded women that they can learn from, eventually partner with, or maybe perhaps try to create bilateral business opportunities, whether they're living here in Dubai or within our capacity as the chamber, connecting them to delegates who are flying from around the world, trying to look for opportunities to set up base here in Dubai. So they're all connected somehow. It's all about the mindset. It's all about doing something. And let's stop talking about it. Let's start actioning. Let's start taking one step forward and doing it. I also believe in what Sarah says, that the micro and the small enterprises are actually the heart and soul of what the economy is all about. And so let's spend more time trying to support them. Let's see what we can do to help them, kickstart a more successful business, because at the end of the day, if they're doing well, the country's doing well. And again, everything is related. So yeah.
So much great advice and one answer there. Ms. Reed, tell us a little bit about how US aid is really supporting the Egyptian government's efforts to improve Egypt's ease of doing business.
Right. So the United States and Egypt have been really sustained and deep partners for a long time, for over 40 years. And Egypt itself has identified the need for them to improve their rankings on the ease of doing business. They also note, and I think this is fascinating, that the things that we've been talking about, the increased role of women in the formal economy, is really critical to them achieving the growth that they want to achieve. And in fact, they've coined the term macro-critical. Women's participation in the economy is macro-critical. So we're working with them both on the greater scale of the economy, as well as really targeting bringing women into this. We work with hundreds of local and international companies to achieve a shared goal of inclusive, globally competitive economy that will ultimately benefit all Egyptians. By pooling our resources and expertise, co-designing programs, and we convene actors from the public and private sectors, this helps us all achieve greater development scale and longer term impact. And I think the kinds of partnerships that we've been discussing today are exactly the area that we want to see more and more effort in, because we agree that partnering with business incubators, accelerators, the importance of networks and companies of all sizes to strengthen the overall business enabling environment in Egypt will help entrepreneurs and micro, small, and medium enterprises grow. And we also agree that that is the engine that is going to make the Egyptian economy grow at the scale that it really needs to. We've partnered with the Egyptian National Business Competitiveness Council to improve the broader business environment. We're also helping the government of Egypt to achieve its ease of doing business ranking by working with public sector on evidence-based analyses and implementation. We're also facilitating public-private dialogue on the laws and regulations, including those that relate to entrepreneurs. So far to date, we've helped more than 10,000 entrepreneurs strengthen their businesses through mentorship programs that we were just discussing, networks, incubators, and accelerators. So this partnership is actually, I think, having an impact on a number of Egyptian lives.
Absolutely, I'm sure it certainly is. Ms. Ben Ali, your thoughts on why it's challenging for women-led ventures to get funding, and how are you making it easier for them to obtain funding?
From my point of view, I think this is actually an issue that's related to all SMEs. Although obviously this is compounded for women entrepreneurs. Accessing, for SMEs, access to finance, I think is a worldwide problem. It is inherently a riskier business that banks tend to shy away from. But I think the UAE government is actively taking steps towards bridging that gap and finding and working with the financial institutions to support the SMEs in their growth. Every woman that starts a business, is ambitious and has a sense of purpose in what she wants to deliver. And we need to work with her to develop on her dream to be able to achieve it. We need to break through the stereotypes and normalize women as entrepreneurs. Now, the interesting thing, I think, from this perspective is the UAE has been quite successful in creating opportunities for women. If you look at 30 years ago, women representation within private and government was quite small. And you look at it now, we've made significant strides in this. And I think, with the rate of change, obviously, it has been increasing. So I think we can achieve similar success in the entrepreneurial space and the SME segment. And hopefully it won't take 30 years. It's something that we can bridge in a much faster pace.
Certainly hope so. Ms. Friha, how is your network, formerly known as Boss Ladies Network, you'll have to remind me of the new name, how is it facilitating women so they're able to engage and connect with mentors and experts from around the globe?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. The network formerly known as Boss Ladies is now known as the Collective. It seems that Boss Ladies is a canceled term, and so we have to adapt as well. But it's worth mentioning that nobody does it alone. Nobody succeeds alone. It's an impossibility. And you did not get here alone. You didn't even make your breakfast alone. You had that somebody made that food, packaged it. You have to buy it. Somebody has a store that you have to buy it from. Nobody does anything on their own. And so really creating a space that fosters authentic connections where people can meet others of like mind and like values who will help them is absolutely crucial. And we saw a lot of it, and forgive me for saying this so bluntly, but I mean, in the UAE, a lot of the places I was going to try to network, I wasn't meeting people that I genuinely clicked with. I think Nadine was one of the few people who not only was staying with the same initiative and in the same enterprise with the same mission for this entire time, but she's always been Nadine. She's the same authentic Nadine that I met 10 years ago. And very few people are like that, because the mistake that people make in networking is usually trying to show their best self, their strongest self. They lie about the current state of their business and their own maybe mental health to try to impress others. But the reality is a mentorship doesn't work unless you genuinely click. A partnership doesn't work unless you genuinely click. And it's very important for us at Women to foster a community where we know that they are already going to be on the same levels in terms of their values and the same levels in terms of their skill set. So the Collective now is a much wider network across the region. Even I have spent most of my time this year in Egypt because our Egyptian base is growing. Most of my team is now based in Egypt. And as Sarah rightfully said, that in the UAE, there's so many beautiful initiatives that are happening. It's more the perception of the general public that needs to change, as well as Nadine mentioned. But in the rest of the region, there's still very much like grassroots, foot on the ground efforts that need to happen, and stories that need to be told, so that women and men can come together and create networks and help each other. You know, when we tell stories of the women on Womena's platforms, we do so with partners, because we can't obviously do it alone. So Womena will bring in partners like either corporate or public sector or even brands that want to collaborate with us, but to tell our style of story, an authentic, nuanced perception of women in the region. And through that, we then can facilitate through the collective and the exposure and the storytelling that we do. The collective can then plug into some of the stories that they see. A great example of this was an amazing sweet woman in Egypt who hand makes dolls. She's very passionate about hand making dolls, and she sews them and she creates them. And we did a photojournalism story about her. And what happened was I got through our collective, the head of UBS reached out to us, and she had just written a young children's book about financial literacy for little girls. And she wanted a toy to give away with this book. And she asked, oh my God, this woman's dolls look like my character. I would love to work with her. And all of a sudden, this woman now had the largest order, you know, of her life. And that's the kind of work that we're able to do, just because of the storytelling and because of the very authentic network that we've put together at Womena.
Fantastic work that you're all doing. Congratulations on all of your progress. Thank you to all of our panelists for your contributions today. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up now. We really appreciate everyone's time, so a big thank you to everyone. Now I would like to invite Khaloud Al-Umyan, the editor-in-chief at Forbes Middle East and CEO of Arab Publisher House, to share her closing remarks.
Hello again. Thank you for joining us in celebrating women and building them up to be leaders of tomorrow. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Visa, its partners, and our team for organizing this remarkable event. We got to hear from so many experts, businesswomen, and up-and-coming female entrepreneurs. They are absolutely ready to take on leadership roles. It's been a pleasure to witness female voices in business being elevated to this level. We enjoyed your inspiring success stories and your great insight. I would like to congratulate the winners of the She's Next competition. I wish all our talented participants the best of luck. To all our great speakers, your stories and word of wisdom will stay with us and continue to inspire us. I hope to see you achieve many great things in the future. Thanks once again.
Thank you, Khaloud, and thank you everyone for joining us in this special occasion to celebrate the success of so many accomplished women from across the Middle East. Thank you for participating in an event that is committed to empowering up-and-coming female entrepreneurs in the region. Goodbye.